Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our February 9th regular council meeting. Welcome to all those in our gallery as well as all those viewers that are online. It's very much appreciated to see all your faces here today. So I call the meeting to order at 1:01 p.m. and just look to council. Is there any added items that you would like to add to the agenda? Seeing none, through consensus then, can I get a adoption of the agenda, please? The agenda is adopted. Thank you very much. Going down to item number 2, adoption of the previous council minutes from January 26th of 2026. I'll ask if there's any additions or corrections that need to be done on those minutes at this time. Okay, seeing none, through consensus then, do I see approval of our January 26 minutes? That is unanimous, yes. They are adopted then. Thank you very much. Moves us on to item number 3, public hearing. I just have a bit of a statement to read here before we get into the public. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to go into public hearing for the purpose of rezoning of property Northwest 433-1 west of the 5th from future urban to light industrial in alignment with both the municipal development plan and the Northeast area structure plan. Before we hear from the gallery, I want to clarify the specific scope of the hearing is to ensure everyone's time is used efficiently and effectively. We are here strictly to discuss the rezoning of this land from urban reserve to light industrial. We will not get into specifics of development proposal during this public hearing. While I'm certain many of your comments and questions are focused on Cinepast's data center proposal, I will ask speakers to keep their comments specific to rezoning matter before us, not the development. At present, Cinepast has submitted a development permit for the southwest quarter section, and that is being reviewed by staff this week, with a draft being circulated to the public shortly and another open house being scheduled. At this stage, there is no development permit submitted for the northwest quarter section, as zoning must be placed first. If you are speaking today, please keep your comments focused on the merits or impacts of the rezoning. If the conversation veers into development details or data centers, I will have to call a point of order and bring you back onto the legal purpose of the meeting. In today's agenda package, in the correspondence section, you will see some of the correspondence council has received on data centers, and our CAO will summarize some of the information we have and what the current status is when we get into the communications section further down the agenda. So with that being said, at 1:04, I call the public hearing. At 1:04, I call the public hearing for 5-14 amendment in session. At 1:05, did you catch that, Marcy? Okay, thank you. So I now call on Mr. Sloan, our municipal land use planner, to explain the purpose and effect of the proposed bylaw.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Bylaw 2026-07 proposes to rezone the northwest quarter of Section 4, Township 33, from Future Urban District, FUD, to the Light Industrial District, ILD, in alignment with both the Municipal Development Plan and Northeast Area Structure Plan. Subject land has been designated for future industrial development in the town's guiding documents for many years, going back to 2017 in the MDP. Proactively bringing the land use designation, or the zoning, into alignment with these higher level statutory plans will allow town administration to respond to potential development applications in a more time efficient manner. This bylaw was given first reading on January 26, 2026. Notice of the public hearing was posted on the town website that day and advertised in the February 3rd newspaper. Notice was also circulated to 8 nearby property owners. At the time of writing this, one email correspondence was received by administration and is included in the package. I have since received 7 other emails, I believe, that I will read at the appropriate time during the public hearing. I have letters for, opposed, and deemed affected. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stone. Just to explain some of the procedures and rules to be followed as we get into the presentations. Presentations before council shall be brief and to the point and limited to 5 minutes. Council shall not allow cross-examination of persons giving information, and it will not be necessary for the persons giving the information to verify his or her qualifications. Council may ask questions of the speaker after each presentation for clarification purposes. No debating or questions from the floor will be allowed. No written or verbal submissions will be received by council after the public hearing is closed. Excuse me, I did miss the pecuniary interest for municipal councilors, and I'll read that now as well so that it's included in the minutes. Section 172 of the MGA says that you may not take part in the discussion or decision-making on any matter in which you have a pecuniary interest. The legislation attempts to assure that you are not discriminated either for or against the virtue of your membership to council. If you have a pecuniary interest, you are to disclose that you have an interest and its general nature prior to any discussion. You are to abstain from any discussion of matters and from voting. You are to leave the room until the matter has been discussed and voting has concluded, and you are to make sure that your abstention is recorded in the minutes. You are not to be discriminated against and are entitled to participate in the public hearing as a member of the public. All right, so when we get into calling for people to do presentations, we will need you to state your name and your address. Indicate if you are speaking on your own behalf or a client, company, or citizens group. I'll make 2 calls for each category. Those in support of, those opposed, and those deemed affected by. And I'll make those calls one after another. When the call is made with what you want to speak to, please raise your hand, and or Marcy has a list that have signed up to speak as well. Thank you, our legislative clerk. Thank you. So after saying that then, I'm going to make the first call for all those in support of the proposed bylaw to come forward and make a presentation.
Hi, my name is James Cummings. I live at 5321 Silverthorne Road in Olds, and I'm in favor of the amendment to the land use bylaw presented today. So over a decade ago, the town initiated a process to annex 3 quarter sections of county land northeast of town, and there was public consultation. And the town, the county, the landowners, the province all agreed, and that was uncontested with the stated intent that this land was going to be industrial. Then we had a municipal development plan with, again, public consultation where this land was designated as industrial land. No contradictions. Nobody was against it. Everybody was for it. The municipal development plan passed. Then we had the area development plan for this zone. Again, more public consultation was held. And again, nobody was upset about this being industrial land. Everybody was in support of this becoming industrial land. Then we've had several land use bylaws, including the entire land use bylaw revisited and redone, with again a plethora more of public consultation, in which this designation of land being industrial was never contended. Invest Olds has had dozens of public consultation sessions with business owners and residents in town. Again, nobody was upset about this becoming industrial land. But all of a sudden, a developer wants to develop land in this area, and that land is being developed, hopefully, as a data center. Now there's a whole group of people upset about this being turned into industrial land. So after a dozen or so public consultations over the last decade, where everybody agrees turning this into industrial land is the right way to go, in support of the future growth of our town and supporting our tax base so that we residents don't have a double-digit increases every year of our taxes, we can support our growing infrastructure needs on industrial development. Now all of a sudden, everybody's upset. There's two reasons why we must see this go through as industrial land. One, consistency. 10 years of public consultation agrees that this community wants this to be industrial land. Going against those 10 years of public consultation because a few people are upset about a data center is inconsistent and just rude to all that public consultation. And council must show consistency in planning. You create these plans, there's all this planning that goes in, the public is engaged for a decade to see this through. Developers look at that. And when council willy-nilly changes it because a few people are upset about some particular aspect against the community's wishes to see this turned into industrial land, that drives away all future developers. They're going to sit there and say, I can't develop in Olds because that council is just going to change their mind whenever they want to. So sticking to a plan is very important. I appreciate the mayor's comments at the beginning of the session that this is about converting this land from its current use to industrial and has nothing to do with the permissions of the development permit of the data center that's planned there. This is about this turning into industrial land, and over 10 years of public consultation has proven that the community is in support of that. Thank you.
Mayor Daley, just a reminder, everyone has 3 minutes and we do have a timer going.
Still in support. Check, check. My name is Derek Hurst, a resident here in Olds, 4726 49th Street. As the clarification earlier that this is about the rezoning, that is what I am here in support of. The technical stuff that I understand is originally when the land use bylaw was put through, there was a placeholder zoning that was put on this particular piece of property. Now we have something that we want to do with it, and it will be designated light industrial. So I'm here to speak in support of that rezoning. As I understand, having only been here for 5 years, it's been the intent that this area of town become something useful and positive ever since it was annexed from the county. Now, should this zoning pass, I hope that a proponent may come forward that sees Olds as a positive town to do business in. This is one of the things of putting these things together that is going to entice folks that want to be here to come. And then I hope that that proponent, should they submit a development application, that would be they would be envisioning something that could bring Olds great benefit, but also while understanding and addressing the concerns and questions of our residences, both near and far. I will look forward to providing my feedback at that time. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Claire Janetz. I'm a resident of Town of Olds. I reside at 4713 51st Street. I'm also a small business owner. I'm here to speak on the bylaw change, and I am pro. As a small business owner and a member of the chamber as well, I think that any growth in this area would really benefit our small businesses in the community. which I see struggling. I'm also chair of the Uptown Association. I'm not speaking on behalf of the members because everybody may have a different opinion, but I do believe that any growth that's larger than a mom and pop shop, something industrial, is just going to enlarge our tax base, which will help the residents, which we would all love to have less taxes, but also it will just drum up business for the small businesses and maybe elevate the town further. That's all.
Dave Dirksen, living in the Meadows. If you need an address, is that good enough? Okay. Appreciate the privilege to be here after terms of office of Mountain View County. I am not in favor of, I'm not opposed to development when development comes. And I am a little concerned that we didn't get the notification quick enough. I believe that the proposal that I see here from one of the previous ones, your development is going to be louder than you think, and I am submitting my thoughts to council that you attempt to move development of issues in buildings and infrastructure further east. There are dwellings with children across the street that are not going to move. Am I outside of late?
Excuse me, Mr. Dirksen, are you in support
I'm in
of?
favor of it.
Okay, all right. I'll let you
I
continue.
believe I said that at the beginning.
Yeah,
If I
yeah.
didn't, I apologize.
No worries.
That's-
Okay, I'll let you
can
continue.
happen. No, I'm in favor of development. This one too falls into that because I'd be a liar if I didn't. But I think we have to be a little careful what we propose at what time. You have made a statement before, Mr. Mayor, that we've got to be careful what we say. But I really would like to just make an issue what happened to council in Mountain View in 1995. Exactly speaking to this. We had a company come to us from the military, American military, pictures from the space station as prepared by NASA. They sent us a picture of night vision of North America. And they told us to check which area the brightest lights were shining from. Nobody got it except Dumb Dirksen, the pig farmer. It's old from Red Deer or Edmonton to Lethbridge. That is the most sought after industrial land in North America and in parts of the free world. Now, he said, this is one thing councils are going to have to be careful of. Companies and developers are going to come in that have deep pockets. They will pick small towns. They will pick stuff that is partially prepared, and the town won't be able to say no. So I am asking you to reconsider somehow if you can get them to cooperate to put their development further east so that people that are there can still enjoy the quietness of their homes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Feels good to be back.
Pat Dardis, Olds, Alberta, 71 Briegel. I had a big speech about my support of the data center, but Mayor Daly took the wind out of my sails there. Originally, I was opposed to changing these lands over from commercial to industrial. This is from future urban to industrial. But after seeing some of the proposals that have come forward in those past weeks with regard to some of this industrial land, I do see it as a major benefit for the town. After the town's open house, as well as the proposed company's open house, which is not pertaining to this particular land, but is a sense of the industrial land that we're going to have. I'm a strong component of it. I feel that both Invest Olds and this proposed company, if he can bring in more of this type of industry to our town, it's going to be a major benefit. One, taxation. Two, some people to buy houses and create growth, and bring other small businesses and commercial businesses into this town and thrive, because all the small businesses in this town are struggling because nobody's coming here at this present time because we don't have a magnet. It's no different than building a commercial mall. If you don't have an anchor, you've got nothing. You look at the malls around the province that lost their Hudson Bay, those malls are struggling because they don't have that anchor. You need an anchor, and this industrial land could be the anchor for Olds to jump forward into the next millennium. Thank you.
Mayor, that's all we have written down for in favor. And no one online has acknowledged in favor.
Okay, thank you very much, Legislative Clerk. So I'll make the second call for all those in support of the bylaw to come forward and make a presentation. Second call. Kyle? Sorry, Mr. Sloan.
Thank you again. I do have one letter that I received in support, so if nobody else present is in favor, I'll read that. This is from Don Dwyer and E. Schott, the property owners at 5305 51st Street in Olds. We want to provide our strong support for the proposed data center. Therefore, we are in support of the approval of proposed bylaw 2026-07. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I think that then comes to a conclusion for those that are in support. So at this time, I will call for the first time for all those opposed to the bylaw to come forward and make a presentation.
We have 2 pages listed here, so we'll start at the top with Jan Thompson.
She's not in here. I don't think Jan was planning on speaking.
Okay. Thank you. Next on the list is Phil Finlay.
Good day, everybody. My name is Philip Finlay. I live at 4050 46th Avenue. It's the property directly across from the proposed development and quarter section that is up for development and planning changes. I also wrote an email in. I believe it was included. I'll try to touch a little bit on that, but I've got some other things that I've thought of since I sent that email in to you guys. I think there's some procedural unfairness with this development, as there's been announcements for major industrial development into Olds. I think we're jumping the gun in how fast we're moving on rezoning this land. And also, in my further research, I noticed that Olds' planning and development has 2 industrial zonings, a light industrial and a heavy industrial. And I fear that we're going into the wrong industrial zoning for this quarter section. We should be proposing a more of a heavy industrial setting for some of the processes that I've heard are planned for this area. Living directly across from it, I believe that there's potential noise implications from the highway traffic, which would allow exceedance for different procedures and stuff and processes on that land. Zoning impacts, the timelines, the phases that you guys have, yes. I've lived in this town for 43 years. I've known that land's open for industrial development. I'm not opposed to industrial development. I'm opposed to the change of this one, as I feel it is the wrong industrial development and zoning change.
Thank you. Rachel Sorensen. Apologies if I have the wrong last name.
I'm Rachel Sorensen, 4606 47 Ave. I am opposed to the land change. Listening to this gentleman earlier, I understand. I think we're lucky that this hasn't been passed before, because it seems to me this is just being pushed through, shoved through, and like Phil said, without a lot of consultation with the people that actually live and pay taxes here. I'm going to have to cut my letter down because we're not supposed to really talk about the elephant in the room, which is why most of us are here. So cutting out all my information, I believe this is hard because what is being proposed for, we all know it's for the data center. I'm not, yeah, so my whole thing is like shot because I can't talk about what is being proposed for that land that is basically across the street from me as well. I believe it's incompatible for future urban use. Yeah, I can't read anything because we're not allowed to talk about why most of us are actually here, which has nothing to do with light industrial use. This is a huge project. We all know that. We can call it all kinds of things or delete it from our things, but yeah, we know why we're here. Yes. So we'll forget my entire first page. For these reasons, I respectfully urge Council to reject bylaw 2026-7 and preserve the future urban development designation. Olds does have the opportunity to grow in a way that prioritizes residents, sustainability, and long-term community value. This proposal does not align with that vision. Thanks for hearing me, and I will submit the rest with all my extra information on. Thank you.
Janie Olson.
Good afternoon, Mayor Daley, Council. I'm just going to, I know that this will touch on the data center, but it's not focal point to the data center or specifics of said data center. But I feel like it's a little bit safe based on the actual Premier's words of Canada's largest data center is being built in Olds. So there is that public notice as well as Invest Olds. That also is excited to announce the opening of Data Center Inc. So we have seen so actually what I'm speaking to is procedural fairness more than anything. So it will reference it, but is not focal point to that, if that makes sense. So under Section 153 of the MGA, you, not administration, are the governing body. Under Section 201, you have a mandatory duty to evaluate municipal policies. You cannot evaluate the impact of this major potential if the technical data has not been approved. So to approve this redesignation without an independent impact study is an abdication of your statutory duty to evaluate. The arbitrary decision. The Supreme Court in Ronsorelli made it clear public authorities cannot act arbitrarily. Furthermore, the Baker decision establishes that procedural fairness applies whenever vital interests, like our community's water security, are at stake. If you go ahead with the second and third reading, which is already slotted for you know when, based on the developer promises rather than verified studies, you're making an arbitrary decision that lacks the high standard of fairness required by law. You are effectively fettering your discretion by pre-committing to a project before harms are fully understood. So the specific demand, I am formally requesting that the Council exercise its authority to table this bylaw decision. Do not allow the decision to be bureaucratically managed by administration under the bylaw 2025 and 14. You have the power to demand a hydrogeological assessment. A noise impact study is also a prerequisite for a land use change. Maybe you've done so. I haven't seen it. Under Galt Canadian, you cannot surrender your legislative power to ensure this land is suitable for such an intense industrial use. When bylaw causes harm, this council owns that decision. Don't hide behind administrative urgency tests. Stand by your residents. Uphold your constitutional character as a governing body and demand the data before you vote. Thank you.
Peter Gurnier, and I apologize on the last name.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Peter Grenier. I live at 4354 46th Avenue, Olds, Alberta. Mr. Finley's neighbor, right across the road. I am like some of my other fellow citizens here today, is a little bit blindsided by the purpose of the meeting. Not blindsided by the purpose of the meeting, misinterpreted the understanding of the purpose of this meeting today. So I won't get into my concerns too much. I just wanted to express my appreciation for the gentleman that provided a bit of history on the zoning and all the work that's gone into it. I think everybody that participated for the last 10 years in that process did so with the understanding that zoning a property industrial meant a much slower growth than what we're faced with today. Having said that, the one other question that I would have, I did participate in a zoning meeting a number of years ago here in the town of Olds. The property where we reside is next to the UFA and some of that industrial corner of Olds. And during those zoning meetings, there were several distinctions between industrial and light industrial. I'm not familiar with where the zoning is today, but I'm assuming if we are zoning or trying to rezone something light industrial, that it does not include a 24-hour runtime, light industrial. If I am mistaken and this is just being zoned industrial, then I agree with my colleagues here. I think we need a little further study. Don't sell us out, guys. Thank you.
Eric Carlson.
Hi, my name is Eric Carlson. I live at 4714 50th Street. And forgive me, my heart's racing a bit. I wish I could have spoken after David. He's very calming. Yeah, since we're speaking on, I guess I'm opposed to changing the northeast corner. I think you might have said northwest in the beginning, and you might have meant northeast. And to start, it'd be the northeast, aren't we talking about? Okay. I strongly think, so I'm opposed. I strongly think we should postpone this decision at bare minimum, and we should maybe slow down the process a little. And like Mr. Cummings said, a lot of us haven't been involved in the whole process, but like it was just mentioned, we weren't exactly sure it was going to be industrial. And I apologize, I haven't been more involved in municipal affairs, but here we are, and now I am. And I'm sure a lot of you know I've started an official petition. You can read it online. And I won't speak to the data center and the fact that it's being built next to residential, which is unprecedented. I won't say anything about that. But I would like to speak to the enormous power generation that we're going to build on site, only because it's not the data center. You specifically said the data center. And when I was at the 2 meetings at the Sportsplex, the map on the wall that we had taped up on the wall with Scotch tape that fell down several times, the 2 quarters say phase 2 expansion, like it's directly related to. So if all of this goes through, we're going to be building the second largest power generation facility in Alberta on light industrial land, which doesn't happen. Power generation of almost any size is always on heavy industrial / utility. Like this could be a serious problem. And I have issues with the emissions of it, with the, I won't speak to the data center, but the AUC Rule 12 only captures the power generation. It's not going to capture the other thing, the elephant in the room, as was mentioned before. So I think, yeah, as it's been mentioned, we got the pamphlet 3 months. Dan, thank you for the email response. 3 months after you guys were approached, everything was opaque, nothing was transparent, and now we're rezoning this, and we're not exactly being told it's just going to be future development. But that map on the wall that everyone saw, phase 2 expansion, which I don't know, I'm interpreting as being expansion of the elephant in the room. Thank you.
Jan Ryder is next. Okay. Peter, I think that's Peter. 4718 49th. Is that Peter?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council.
Well, I don't think.
Can you hear me? Oh, sorry. Thank you, everybody. I agree with everybody here, both pro and con. Your restrictions on what we can talk about has taken away the great proportion of what I wanted to say, but everybody eloquently spoke up. I spent most of my working life erecting, commissioning, and operating these units. They are the cornerstone of heavy industry in this country, in fact, all around the world. These are big, powerful machines. As the previous talker mentioned, this is a very large industrial facility. It is not light industry by any stretch of the imagination. I hope you consider that. And another thing I want to say is the way this whole process has gone. I came home a week ago, right around the 1st of February, and there was a note in my door. I read it over. I said, startup for construction was going to be in March, which was 6-8 weeks away. A $10 billion facility. One of the largest powerhouses in the world, in Canada. Less than 500 yards away from where I live. How is that possible? How did everybody sneak that past me? Where was the Albertan newspaper? Where were the councillors?
Excuse me, let's just, point of order. We'll go back onto zoning, please.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Again, this is not light industry. This is heavy industry. Thank you very much.
Celine Locke.
Thank you very much. My name is Celine Lockey. My address here in Olds is 4638 52nd Street. Well, as in the beginning of this meeting, it's been stated very clear that the elephant in the room will not be a sole part of it. But regardless, I do believe that your guys' plans for the construction of what seems to be very, very strange decision, but yeah, a lot of things have been unclear to the citizens of Olds. We have not seen a lot of data on much of much with these proposals of just, in all reality, it's going to be heavy industrial. It's not truly a light industrial project or projects, but I think majority of the speakers who are opposed, such as myself, that have already spoken, have kind of said it pretty clear for me. We do need more data on many aspects. One that has been truly ignored that I have noticed is health data. What is going to be the impacts of not only this particular but other future projects that may come to the area, and what are we to expect for our citizens, not only just in that way but just in general the future. So yeah, that's I'm opposed, and that's about that.
Glenn Lockie. Okay. Sure. Shane Matchhollis, and I apologize on your lap. Janae Johnson. I apologize on your first name if I. Okay.
Hello, my name is Janae Johnson. I live on 4610 47th Street, very close to the proposed land use bylaw change. I am opposed. I think it is key to note that the people who are for this project or for this land use change do not directly live right next to it. I am opposed until the council can give further clarification on the uses of light industrial and whether or not that will include potential development power generation facilities close by. As a resident in close proximity, it is important to clarify, not only for the safety and health of its residents, but also to ensure that the town is correctly zoning this area. The proposed development seems to fall more under the category of heavy industrial, and I understand growth is important, but it is also the duty of the council to ensure that the future development in this area is not going to have long-lasting harmful effects. And I echo as well everything that has been brought forward in those concerns. Thank you.
Marnie Desjardins. Apologies, thank you.
So good afternoon, everyone. I'm really I'm pleased to be able to be here. I have been a resident of Olds for 40 years at my current location, which is 4826 47th Street in the red zone surrounding the proposed data center and generation. I also work at Olds College. I've worked there for just about, well, been a student and worked there at just about the same length of time that I've been in Olds. So I've been at the college. So my life 24/7 resides in that area, and I care about my life, what I'm hoping to be able to have in my retirement from Olds College, which I plan on not dying there. So when I'm looking forward to my future and the future of all of the kids that live up and down the block, all the seniors that live in Olds, I am strongly opposed and totally affected by what this project is representing. And I am emotional about it because this is an emotional topic. I feel like I have really failed myself and my town and the fellow citizens by not being more involved in the zoning process for the last 10 years. And I appreciate the information that you brought forward on that. I don't know where I've been, clearly working and living in the town, and I'm not sure if that was all as short notice publication as what I got and was just lucky that I happened to be at my door when the young gentleman brought the package about this. I had not heard a thing about this energy generation, supporting this data center proposal in this town for all of that time. Now, what the heck is that about? I can completely support, and I am so proud of all of the citizens that have come forward, who have found out about this and who've been able to make it to this meeting. I know that there's plenty others out there that have not had that opportunity. They don't even know that this is going on. I am ashamed of the council, the way that this has come forward. The citizens should be the first to know, the first consulted. When you talk about responsibility and transparency, I haven't seen a shred of that. Not a shred. So I think we can all do better here. I have serious concerns of my own, and now they're amplified by 10 by things that other people have brought forward that I haven't even had the time and headspace to think about in the short period of time that I got the notice on the 27th of January to the meeting by the company, which I also attended. I didn't even get to the town meeting because I didn't even see that. I didn't even hear about that until after it was over. And I will tell you, had I known about that, I would have been there too.
Time.
Thank you.
Sarah Pinnickney? Sorry, I apologize.
You have to excuse me. I haven't done any public speaking since I was about 17. Sarah Pinckney, and I'm from, live at 4430 46th Ave. So when we had to decide between opposed or deemed effective by, opposed was more important to me. I myself, petrified of public speaking, more petrified of living across from something that I don't think should be in town under the zoning laws that are there. I don't think it's right that we have to choose our health. I'm a business owner in town, and I know myself that I will not be living in town if that ends up being what it's proposed to be. I have no problem with the fact that, and don't get me wrong, I live and look across at the beautiful field, but I know, I've always known that it was going to end up being industrial, and I knew that. I wasn't looking forward to it. I was hoping I was going to be older still, but I never worried about the safety of it or any of that aspect, just that I would lose my view. Now I'm also worried about what that will do to the cost of housing in the area. I agree that some houses might be worth more money, but the local area will directly be affected. And those of us who have put all our spare money into getting our houses and stuff paid for are going to end up with a house that's not valued the same because of what's being built across the road from us. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Crystal Zacharias, I think.
Hi there, my name is Crystal Zacharias, and I live at 4346 46 Ave Olds, and I am opposed and also deeply affected. Mayor Dan Daly told me that my house value would go up, which is a blatant lie. Anywhere these elephants have been built, value has gone down. I have 5 children, and I do not want the health risks associated with the elephant. Thank you.
That's all I have for opposed on the list, unless there's anyone else in the room.
Thank you. So then I'll call for the second time for all those opposed to the proposed bylaw to come forward and make a presentation. Mr. Sloan?
Thank you again. I have a number of letters here in opposition to the proposed bylaw, so I'll read those out. Hello, Mayor and Council. after tonight's meeting at Olds College, I am strongly opposed to bylaw 2026-07. Thank you for your time and consideration in this matter. Sincerely, Sandy Thompson. There is no address on this one. Dear Mayor Daley and members of council, I am writing as a resident of the town of Olds to formally object to the proposed land use redesignation set out in bylaw 2026-07, which would amend the current designation of the subject lands from future urban to light industrial. Based on the publicly available materials, including the natural environment mapping associated with this area, the lands proposed for rezoning appear to contain wetlands, ephemeral draws, and other environmentally sensitive features. These features play a critical role in local drainage, flood mitigation, groundwater recharge, and overall ecosystem health. I am deeply concerned that the rezoning for this land for light industrial use, particularly for a project of the scale being discussed, may result in irreversible environmental impacts if wetlands and the associated natural features are disturbed, altered, or removed. Additionally, as I understand, the provincial government's requirements of replacing wetlands or compensation, should wetland loss be approved, does not require the replacement of these wetlands in our own community. This means Olds loses wetlands permanently and compensation happens in another municipality. Equally, if not more concerning to me, is the lack of transparency and apparent haste surrounding this rezoning process and the data center proposal as a whole. A project of this magnitude, scale, and potential long-term impact warrants a high degree of public disclosure, careful study, and deliberate decision-making. To date, the information provided to residents appears limited, fragmented, insufficient, and at times contradictory. This does not allow for meaningful public understanding or informed input. From a resident's perspective, this rezoning feels rushed and premature, occurring without clear evidence that appropriate environmental due diligence, infrastructure analysis, or cumulative impact assessments have been completed or fully disclosed. Land use changes of this significance should not proceed ahead of comprehensive review simply to accommodate a single unfunded proposed development. While I recognize the importance of economic development and potential investment opportunities, these considerations must be balanced against environmental stewardship, responsible growth, and public trust in municipal decision-making. Ultimately, I am not opposed to the data center in concept. However, the integrity of the process matters just as much as the outcome. At minimum, I believe the following should occur before any rezoning is approved. Clear identification and delineation of all wetlands and environmentally sensitive features on the affected lands, confirmation of applicable provincial and federal wetland protections, public disclosure of any environmental, infrastructure, or impact assessments completed or underway, adequate time and information for residents to meaningfully review and respond to the proposal, consideration of alternative sites that do not contain sensitive natural features. Until these matters are fully transparently addressed, I do not support the proposed rezoning. Thank you for the opportunity to participate in the public process. I respectfully request that my objection be entered into the public record for the public hearing. Sincerely, Lindsay Martinson, resident, Town of Olds. To whom it may concern, I am writing to oppose the amendment of the Town of Olds land use bylaw to redesignate the northwest quarter of Section 4, Township 33 from future urban to light industrial, bylaw 2026-07. I feel the project is going way too quickly before consultation with the community. I feel the health and welfare of the community is more important than the carrot of dollars. Sincerely, Debbie Crawford. One more. I am writing to oppose bylaw 2026-07, the proposed redesignation from future urban to light industrial. My concern is how fast this is moving, given the size of the project and its location. The project includes natural gas-fired power plant of approximately 1.4 gigawatts within town limits, directly across the street from houses. For comparison, this project's power station is almost double the size of Suncor's oil sands facility, 850 megawatt, which produces roughly 800,000 barrels per day. This is a massive industrial installation to place inside the town, and I do not believe it is light industrial, which typically includes warehouses, small workshops, and very little noise and emissions. It is heavy industrial. 2,000 construction workers, 1,000 employees, 100 million liters of water saved. It has high pressure natural gas and meter stations, mega high voltage electrical switch gears, CO2 emissions comparable to those of a large industrial complex, and other pollutants. Also, I am not aware of any independent town studies addressing noise, air emissions, property value impacts, or other risks associated with a project of this size. I do not believe relying on online studies or material provided by the project promoter is enough, especially when the town does not have the in-house expertise to fully assess these risks. I also want to emphasize that we do not have time to do this properly. At work, we follow a simple safety principle: slow the game down. When something feels rushed or not fully understood, we pause and reassess. I would ask council to reflect on this. If this development were proposed across the street from your own residence, would you not want independent studies completed first? I believe most residents would. It needs to be assessed as heavy industrial. I am asking that this process be slowed and that independent third-party studies be completed before moving forward. The long-term health and welfare of the community should come first. Sincerely, Jeff Schumi. And that is all for my letters opposed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stone. I believe Mr. Fisher had his hand up there as well on the second call.
That is on, is it? Is that on?
Yep.
Okay. My name is Dana Fisher. I live at 4641 51 Street, which is just a block west of Olds College, where I worked for 45 years. I have heard a lot going on here today, and mine is of the same general thing, so I won't waste more than 3 minutes. I think that we need to put the park brake on just for a minute with this proposal, because just in the short time that we've known about it, which is very, very short, people have gotten like there's a war going on. And I think council should be aware that people are very upset. I see other proposals related the same in Rocky View County and up around Barhead, and both got rejected because not enough studies, not enough this. I also say I don't know that Olds is in a panic to get industrial area, because I took a friend for a drive yesterday through the current industrial area. I see a ghost land, abandoned places, fenced off places. So it's not like we're short of industrial land that we need this. So I think it's a perfect time to, like I say, put the park brake on, reassess things, get people's feelings on it. I'm not opposed to progress. I'm not opposed to any of that stuff. But you don't want to do something of this magnitude. Otherwise, you look like you've already made the deal. Okay, thank you. That's my...
All right, so then we'll move down to call for the first time all those persons deemed to be affected by the proposed bylaw to come forward and make a presentation.
We have Helene and Dana Fisher. Okay, sorry.
I could actually use my teacher voice and it would probably be just as effective. We already submitted a proposal, vehemently opposed to the proposed development until further impact studies are done to the environment, the health, and the residential impact. Uncontested does not mean in support. And I have come to learn through my own introduction into different developments and change in bylaw use that many people, they get up and go to work every day, and they work really hard and they get a living. I'm retired, and I've come to learn that I have to work really hard. It's almost become a full-time job trying to read and understand what town council is up to. I have to go on Fridays. I have to read PDFs when they're released for the next agenda meeting. I have to research to understand the terminology that exists within bylaw changes, and sometimes that consumes our time. Since we got the development at our door the other day, my husband Dan and I have existed in 3-hour, 4-hour discussions, trying to thoughtfully think and research about what this means. So I'm going to go down a timeline. In May and June land use bylaw amendment, I attended that at the Workland Center at Olds College. We all went there and the house was full. And the document was long and heavy. But what brought people passionately to that new land use bylaw was the redesignation of R1 residential lots. And the data center word was slipped in there among light industrial uses, which typically refers to land designated for activities with minimal nuisance. I attended that and learned everything I could about that part of it. I also brought up the cash in lieu of changing parking requirements in East Olds. And so then, after October, November of consuming my life with trying to figure out bylaws and bylaw changes, I had to take a break because I got sick in December. And in January, I thought I just need to stop watchdogging the town council and just live my life for a little bit. And then all of a sudden I go January 26th, bylaw change. January 27th, application made. Person at my doorstep saying this is happening all over the news. And it's really distressing. The door knocker was not at all appropriate for the job, the big task that was at hand. And it did come as a surprise to the residents of East Olds. I guess I'm asking that we take a breath like everybody else have. It was really nice to read yesterday because I went online and I'm still trying to do research, decipher good from bad, but boy, there's a lot of stuff out there that says we need to think carefully.
Time.
In Ohio, there was one more thing. There was the village leaders met with the community to discuss a 180-day moratorium on zoning, rezoning for data center due to a controversial megasite and a lack of understanding by the community. Village leaders passed an ordinance for the above.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's no one else on our list and no one online that wishes to speak.
Thank you. I'll turn it over to Sean to technically, the one online to speak or no? Oh, sorry, I misheard there. Sorry, thank you. All right, so then I'll make the second call for those persons deemed to be affected by the proposed bylaw to come forward and make a presentation. Mr. Sloan.
Thank you. I have, I believe, 2 letters in this category. Dear Council, I have attended both the town and Synapse open houses on the proposed data center in Northeast Olds. I am approaching my comment to you based on the pros and cons I've been able to derive from both sessions. I understand that the town desperately needs tax revenue from industrial business or elsewhere. The project would provide funds to resolve a lot of complaints that community members have about roads, enforcement, recreational programs, etc. Based on the presentation, the project would bring approximately 100 plant jobs and 400 admin maintenance jobs that may or may not need to be on site to complete their tasks. These jobs could bring spending power to Olds and support local businesses. By saying yes, we are putting the strain on our resources until a time when we recoup enough tax to start seeing benefits in updated infrastructure in the form of schools, recreational roads, etc. By saying yes, we are leaving residents in fear of their health as questions about third-party studies on impacts to air quality, water resources, blast radius, noise, quality of life go unanswered. I acknowledge that saying no has potential to drive away other industrial investors and the impact it has on how investors view Olds. As a result, revenue would need to come from taxpayers to offset the loss of proposed taxes from this project to the unrelated loss of provincial funding. That is a reality I'm willing to accept to maintain our low ratio of industrial to residential. However, I cannot speak for other residents. The above points have not been made clearly available unless one went out seeking them. This is a big, irreversible decision. The town will be reshaped, and I do not believe that residents have had fair time to think, decide, and voice their concerns through appropriate channels. My ask of you would be to table your decision on the land use change pertaining to this land and concisely address a factual, evidence-based pros and cons list to the proposed project. With feedback on this list you receive through public forums and write-ins at top of mind, I would take more comfort in the decision you make. Thank you for your consideration. Cassidy Rochemont. To the Town of Olds Planning Department and Town Council. I am writing as a resident whose home, as pictured, I'm sorry, there was a picture attached showing the field, whose home, as pictured, is directly across from the proposed data center site. My property at 4402 46th Avenue serves as my primary place of business for remote work. The visual evidence from my window confirms I am an immediate neighbor to the proposed industrial land. I am requesting that the following good neighbor conditions be integrated into any development permits issued for this project. Acoustic and low frequency mitigation. Data centers produce a constant 24/7 hum that can severely interfere with my professional audio-video equipment and my ability to work from home. I request a noise impact assessment that guarantees sound levels at my property do not exceed 35 decibels at night and 50 during business hours. I specifically advocate for the installation of industrial sound attenuation walls or a vegetated berm. Construction hour reductions. To prevent disruption to my work from home, I request that heavy machinery, excavation, and high vibration activities be strictly limited to standard daytime hours and avoided during critical business windows, for example, 9 to 5. Visual and light buffering. The transformation of 300 plus acres into industrial campus will severely impact my workspace's environment and my property's value, as seen in the current view from my window. Again, the photos. I request a detailed landscaping plan and a guarantee of dark sky compliance, shielded lighting to prevent light spill into my home and workspace. Wildlife and environmental impact. The development of over 300 acres of undeveloped land impacts the local ecosystem. I formally request an environmental impact assessment to protect indigenous wildlife, migration paths, and habitats, ensuring the development minimizes disruption to the natural environment and our community currently enjoys. Quality of life and peaceful enjoyment. The continuous industrial noise, lighting, and visual impact directly threatens my family's right to peaceful enjoyment of our property. I request mandatory conditions that mitigate these quality. Isn't this we've asked all these residents to not talk to us
Yeah.
about specifics of the data center, and it seems like if they wanted to have their voices heard, all they had to do is write in instead of personally coming to address us.
Thank you.
I'd
Yeah.
like to, just
Limit it to just the zoning information.
But just in respect of
Okay.
everybody who, fulfilled their comments here.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So I will skip to the end of that list of other impacts, and it ends with, please register this formal letter as an objection or comment for the upcoming public hearings currently noted on my calendar for February 9th at the public hearing. Please confirm receipt and keep me informed of all the upcoming development or discretionary use permit notices. Regards, Sydney Cruz, 4402 46th Avenue. Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks to Councillor Taylor for bringing that up. Thank you. Okay, so that concludes our public input on the public hearing. Now I would turn to council to ask for any comments that they would like to make in regards to this.
Mr. Chairman, there arrives on a point of privilege. I believe council needs to hear some issues that some people may want to deal with everything because we're earning. You're not doing bad at all. Well, I can't approach until he says.
Go ahead, use the microphone, yes.
Mr. Chairman, and I rise on this point of privilege that there are people that I'm in favor of this project, but not the way you have it set. Now we're being made out to be not very smart. I'm going to encourage you as the mayor of Olds to draw your councillors together on a given time and don't worry about the public saying, well, you're going on a retreat again. Please do that. You people need a vision for this, for Olds that will include something like that. Right now, please forgive me for saying this, but you're shooting from the hip. This stuff is all fast, fast, fast. Why I'm in favor of it, Olds needs industrial, they need development, period. But you need to have some encouragement as to where to put it and who the heck is going to be the boss while it's being done. Madam, I'm getting all mixed up. Let's go from Mr. Chairman.
No worries. Thank you very much for your comments. Yes, thank you. Going back to council, Councillor Taylor.
Thanks, Mayor Daly. And through you to CEO Williams. One of the letters that we got was from Lindsay Martinson. Councillor Sloan read that letter. There voiced concerns about the wetlands in the northwest corner. Now, I have a very limited knowledge on wetlands and the regulations surrounding them, but I was able to fumble through the Government of Alberta's GIS map, and there does appear to be 4 small areas defined as wetlands in that northwest corner, or sorry, that northwest quarter. And yeah, thank you to Lindsay Martinson for bringing that to all of our attention. And I am curious, can administration tell me how the presence of these wetlands is handled in development, and if there was some development to proceed on this land? Thanks.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Taylor. And through the chair, I'm just going to pass that to Mr. Sloan, as he's more versed than I in this matter.
Thank you. And also through the chair. So we don't currently have a complete development permit application, but our process for the development permit would be to circulate to a number of provincial agencies, including there are 2 different pieces for environment, for AEP, Alberta Environment and Parks. We do that to their land division and to their water division. And the water division would be the ones reviewing the development and as it relates to wetlands. And then they would have conditions that they pass to a potential developer through us that has to be met before they sign off on their portion of the process.
Go ahead.
So, and just kind of curious, how often has the town engaged in these kind of discussions? Like, is wetlands in these annexed and rezoned areas, is that common? And if you could just give me a sense of how often this happens. Thanks.
Thank you. Through the chair, quite frequently. Basically, any of our developments that are in Greenfield, so on the edge of town, undergoes this review anyways. Even if there are not wetlands present, we would still circulate to them for this. So when it comes to residential development in the southeast industrial, when there are developments down there, it's all the same. So any larger greenfield development permit gets circulated to AEP.
Thank you. Councillor Blatz, please.
Thank you, Mayor Daly, and through you to our municipal planner, Mr. Sloan. Can you explain to us and to me again what the purpose of the future urban district is and was, and why didn't we rezone this in 2024? We redid our bylaw as well as we approved the area structure plan at that time. And what relationship does this have to our area structure plan? And I can also answer some more questions on being on the Water Commission, the questions that Councillor Taylor had too.
Thank you. Through the chair, there have been some cases where our greenfield developments, residential and industrial, have been rezoned in the land use bylaw to apply the actual intended zoning at an earlier stage. And then it sits there for many years with a mix of zoning that doesn't align with the use that we actually see on site, typically agricultural still. So it's good to have the urban reserve, or now what we call future urban district, to identify that this will eventually become part of the urbanized footprint of Olds, but things do change in the long-term planning. So in the 2007 municipal development plan, it identified this area as residential development. If we had rezoned that to residential, it would have had a decade of that residential zoning in place. And then in 2017, in that municipal development plan, it was changed to industrial. Because it was never actually rezoned to residential, it allows the land use bylaw to more accurately reflect that it's still just future development. And then when actual development is closer to the present, is a more appropriate time to do the rezoning. So then we have sessions like today, whereas if you're rezoning a quarter mile or a mile, I'm using that because it's sections, not because I think in Imperial, but if you're rezoning that far outside of the urban footprint way ahead of time, then the permit applications can just come in, and there's actually, like, the zoning would have just taken place probably without much scrutiny, versus now the way this process is, where it's another chance to have this public hearing and take a look at it again and make sure that it is in alignment with our visions for the town, for the land. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Mayor Daly, and through you to the CEO. I'm just wondering if the CEO could explain how this proposed rezoning relates to where we are at in terms of the development proposal from Synapse. And we've heard some discussion or concern expressed relative to light industrial versus heavy industrial, and if you could shed any light on how I guess that would be handled, and perhaps implications relative to moving forward. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. And through the chair, your last part I'll pass over to Mr. Sloan, as he can delineate better than I about light versus heavy industrial uses. Right now, with how this proposed rezoning relates to the current status of development, as Mr. Sloan mentioned, there is a development permit submitted. Right now it's focused on the southernmost quarter of the proposed Synapse development. So that one is being reviewed right now by administration. It's not yet deemed complete because we are missing some pretty important documents like our noise assessments, the aesthetic proposals, the barriers or berms, lighting design, for example. So that's where we're at in the process. But for the north quarter, which is in question today, it's just rezoning. So the idea would be, and Gal can correct me if I'm wrong, that if the rezoning occurs on the north quarter, the development permit can be amended to include the north quarter. But right now, what Synapse has submitted, it's being reviewed as is. And Kyle, regarding light versus heavy, could you elaborate on those?
Thank you. Through the chair, the primary use that we're reviewing for the development permit, being a data center, was added to the previous land use bylaw, actually as a permitted use in 2024. In the new land use bylaw, when we were working on that, it was moved into the discretionary use category. So that would be the use that we're looking at on the site, and that was deemed to be light industrial. Now, there are concerns that the power generation doesn't align with what people see as a light industrial district. The power generation is less within our scope of review, and it's more part of the AUC, Alberta Utility Commission. Like, they have their own independent review and more expertise to review that portion of the development. In terms of they have standards that need to be met for noise, for emissions, for distances to residents, for any power generation in the province. So that they have more expertise for that component. Our expertise or our review is about the use of data center, which we deemed in the last land use bylaw to be appropriate for light industrial.
Supplemental, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Daly. Supplement through you to the municipal planner. So thanks for that. And so I'm just wondering, because there's also been reference made to analysis, independent studies, and so on. How do we tread that line relative to third party, quasi-judicial versus doing our own due diligence, I guess, whether it be around noise or emissions or anything like that? Does that make sense?
Thank you. I think I understand where you're coming from. So in terms of analyzing all the different components of a development, we do have in-house expertise in some areas, and then we have areas where we don't have that in-house expertise, and that is where we rely on circulating. In many cases, those circulations are for different provincial entities. I already mentioned environment and parks, but transportation, like, we don't have transportation planners here, so we circulate to Alberta Transportation and Economic Corridors for their review, and we rely on their expertise on determining that component. And all the different components we circulate in similar ways. And in some cases, when it comes to engineering, we might circulate an application to our third-party engineering consultants for their review, beyond just staff here doing that.
Thank you, Mr. Cummins. Councillor Wilson.
My question is of a general nature relative to light industrial and heavy industrial. It is not specific. I did not reference data center. I did not reference Synapse, at least I don't think. It was a general question around going forward, how will administration handle and manage these permits, this type of development in this area.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Mayor Daly. And just to go a little further, as we were talking about this and it was brought up, I happen to have the land use bylaw and I'm looking at the industrial heavy and industrial light descriptions. And I think for everybody's reference here, heavy industrial areas typically include concrete plants, auto wrecking, waste management facilities, manufacturing, feed mills, bulk material processing and handling facilities, and similar high-packed industrial developments. Use does not include a cannabis, which for many people who have concerned about noise and other things, these are all those types of businesses that would directly be affected if this was to be zoned heavy industrial as compared to a light industrial. Light industrial developments typically include laboratories, general contractors, landscaping services, equipment rentals and services, warehouses and warehouse sales, etc. So just so everyone here has that reference so that they do know going forward why this could be deemed light industrial as compared to the zoning change as compared to a heavy industrial.
Thank you, Councillor Blatz. I move to Councillor Overwater.
Thank you, Mayor Daly. We are here for the land use bylaw, and that is strictly determining whether we're going to light industrial from urban reserve. At the end of the day, should there be a permit that actually comes through, a development permit that actually comes through for whatever could be developed over there, there would be other public hearings, there would be other settings for people to address, whether it's whatever issues you may have regarding what development's going to go there. But when I came here today, my thought is I am here to decide whether I am going to change this land to light industrial from urban reserve. As we've had people from the gallery speak, and I have been here way before when we had many consultations with the County of Mountain View as to what that land would be. And eventually it would be light industrial. And that's the reason why we're here today, is to make that decision. It's not to decide what is going to go there. If anybody has an issue with that, they will be able to have their say with if and when a development permit comes through. That's just my thought. Sorry.
Mr. Finley.
Thank you for allowing me a point of reflection here. Just one second. Thank you for allowing me a point of reflection in this matter. Just one question I have. Can anybody tell me how many heavy industrial parcels we have in Olds? Is there any heavy industrial development in Olds at this time? No?
I see head shaking.
In my point of reflection here, would this bylaw change to light industrial be paused to change to heavy industrial?
Sorry.
Go ahead, CAO.
Yeah.
So council's land use bylaw data centers are in the light industrial district, so a separate process would have to be done there. But as Mr. Sloan referred to, even though I believe some people have referenced the large natural gas footprint that this is proposed to have, the actual data center use still fits in council's opinion, as per the last land use bylaw update, in the light industrial district. As we move further along in the AUC process, should we move further along, that's something that can be adjudicated at that time. But for now, it's the data center piece. But again, for this, we're talking about the zoning of this northwest quarter section.
Thank you. We're just talking about zoning. Any other comments from council? Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Mayor Daly. I guess through you to the CAO. I wonder if the CAO would just, and I understand, we're talking from future urban development through to light industrial. Can you talk how that rezoning would impact, could impact
the role that council would play as far as, I guess, adjudicating or becoming involved in projects of any kind within light industrial. Light industrial is widely encompassing. I think our lab lists over 40 type of industries. How would this rezone impact the role that council would play? Thank you.
Good question. And through the chair, so in our land use bylaw, data such as are discretionary, but they're under administration discretionary. When council first added this, starting in May and then June of 2025, the idea of around, say, natural gas co-location was not fully communicated or understood yet. So that's kind of a change in scope. So as we approach data centers and what the province has laid out for data centers, most recently in the latter quarter of 2025, with the expectation of bring your own power, it changes the parameters. So as it stands now, even though our bylaw is not fully reflective of the most recent changes, if we take the proposals before us, council and the public have to have a larger role in those. And it is administration's intention at this time. We have development permit, as mentioned, submitted. It is not yet deemed complete, as we're missing some important pieces of that development permit, including the noise assessments, including the lighting plans, including the visual barriers. Once that happens, public circulation, as per the Municipal Government Act, will occur. Presentation will be made to council, hopefully as early as the 23rd of February, but it does depend on when that deemed complete date occurs. And then I would recommend to council at time a public open house, other engagement efforts commence. And that's the time for when the actual development can be discussed in public and some of the concerns discussed. And one of the bigger things, I think you've alluded to it, there's a lot of things are out of our control at the moment. They will be out of our control. Council, as part of your development process, this rezoning is a fundamental part of your authority. But when you talk about environmental impacts, when you talk about water usage, when you talk even halfway of the noise parameters, those are not municipal powers. We can't put conditions on a development that trespasses on provincial jurisdiction. Now, some areas, again, we overlap. Noise is one of those areas. But wetlands, industrial water usage, those things come from the province. But I'm breaking my own rule here. But in the correspondence section, where we have, I believe, 6 or 7 letters submitted, I have just a brief presentation trying to touch on the updated FAQs, Q&As information at that time, but hopefully that answers your question. I veered around a bit. But council will have a substantial role in this approval as it proceeds.
Thank you. Mr. Carlson.
Sorry, and thank you. Just speaking to this really quick, the town does need to do some of the noise control. AUC Rule 12 will only affect the gas plant. So if we're going to do any noise control that's going to affect the zone of the 800 meter buffer zone, it's going to be you guys doing a noise bylaw. The AUC does not affect the data center. It's only the gas generation plant. So anyways, thank you.
Yeah, and just in reply to that, I think that's exactly what CL Williams is mentioning, is that there is some authority that we do have on that noise control as well. And yeah, I think that pretty much covers it, right? Any other comments or questions from council? Councillor Taylor.
Thanks, Mayor Daly. Just basically a overarching comment here. Like, I get that people view this bylaw as an opportunity to stop or kill the proposed Synapse data center. And yes, defeating this bylaw would hamper it, but that's not the purpose of the bylaw. And this bylaw opens up for any number of light industrial uses. So I think focusing on the specifics of the proposed data center seems premature, and I would like to see this go one step further down the process so we can get the data-rich studies done, the information that we'll be getting as a part of that process so we can make those decisions. I too want to know where these noise studies are, the emission studies, all this information, but we're not going to get that until we go just down the road a little bit. That's all.
Thank you. Mr. Gagne.
Thank you. I get what we're saying about the data center. And that's completely off the table, but I believe based on the rezoning of this particular land, Mr. Sloan had made reference to the fact that it would bridge nicely into future development permits for the elephant in the room if we could get that through.
I think you're correct, and we're going to cut it off at that for public. I think you are correct in what Mr. Sloan has said, but also listen to what Councillor Taylor has said, is that this does not say that this development's going to go ahead or what the development is going ahead. Then what happens is that we need to have more documentation in place from the developer so that these studies can be so these studies can take place. Whether we talk about environment, wetlands, noise, light, all that stuff is going to be part of the package then that what comes forward to the development and planning department, and then that will come to council and to public for consultation from that point on. And right now we're just looking at the rezoning of the land, and what that does is it initiates the rest of it. Somebody can apply for a development permit, but if they're not going to meet our standards to protect our citizens, it's not going to go through. Realize that, right? And right now, like as CAO Williams has mentioned, things are provincially governed, and then when they come back to us, then we make that decision on a municipal level. And so there's certain things we can do and there's certain things we can't do. So I leave it at that. Any further comment from council? Questions? Mr. Sloan, final comments?
I don't think I have any further comments. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been very good discussion here today. Very good. So with that, at 2:39, I call the public hearing bylaw number 2026-07, land use bylaw 2025-14 amendment. I call the public hearing closed. So with that, we move back. Okay, Councillor Overwater.
I'm prepared. Thank you, Mayor Daly. I'm prepared to make a motion that bylaw 2026-07 be given second reading as presented.
You, Councillor Overwater. Any questions or concerns from council? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Second question. Would somebody like to make the motion? Councillor Cook.
I move that bylaw 2026-07 be given third reading as presented.
Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Daly. I guess I just, to you, ask a question that came up around tabling. I'd ask you, is there support amongst council to table the third reading vote?
Okay, I put it to council then. All those in favor of that? Of tabling? Opposed? 5-2. Thank you. All right, so we have a motion on the floor. Any further questions or comments? Councillor Taylor.
Thanks, Mayor Daley. I just want to assure that this is not the end of the process. There's still many steps to go through, and those steps will have a lot more data-rich information that we need to make a decision. That's all. Thanks.
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? It's 5-2. Motion is passed. Thank you very much. And thank you for all your inputs here today. And I sincerely hope that we get more input from you once we start going down that road as to what this is going to look like and whether it is actually viable for our community. Thank you. Should we take a 5-minute recess? Okay, so let's take a recess now till 2:45. Thank you. We're good?
Test.
15 seconds.
All right. I know it's been a long day for you, so I'll keep this fairly short. Thank you for having me.
Oh, we got 15 seconds.
Oh.
Okay, thank you. So we call the meeting back to order at 2:52. And our next item is item number 4, delegations. And that takes us to 4.1, RCMP Services 2025 third quarter report. We have Staff Sergeant Day here with us today to give his report and also the information in the package. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Just reviewing the report, as you all have had copies of the report. A few areas, again, that in this quarter that I noticed still maintain the same as fraud, which is obviously can be very difficult for us to deal with. And I also noticed mental health calls continue to be on the rise. I can tell you that all our calls that have any weight to it, we do partner with the RPAC team, which is the nurse and the officer at Drumheller. They were just in our office the other day. A lot of these are frequent flyers that we're getting, so it's not you're going to have that many individuals with mental health crisis. A lot is it's a repeating people that are doing it. We've taken them to a designated facility, which Olds doesn't have, so we take them to Panoka. And unfortunately, we don't have much say what happens there. They get released probably the next day, and they're back into the community, and then it's a revolving door again. So we're doing that chase quite a bit. And Olds is not the only one doing that. My other posts as well, I've seen the same thing as well. It's we do everything to be able to Form 10 them and get them their mental health apprehension, and then take them to the facility, and then they're released that night, if not early the next day, which can be frustrating for us because then we do that same chase all over again a week later, sometimes a day later. We're chasing that same person again. So we have concerns there, of course, with those type of calls. The one area of increase that I did notice was theft of motor vehicle seemed to be quite high in this area, was flagged, and so I have a rural crime officer looking into that, why that's occurring in the town of Olds. And I won't get into what type of items, but we have deployed some certain bait items in the community that we're hoping to obviously catch these offenders taking these vehicles. So we have done some of that work. And we're monitoring that very closely, as well as we did the Operation Cold Start. And that's just basically driving around the community, seeing any vehicle that's idling. There's no ticket. There's been some social media backlash about us giving tickets for that. It's not a ticket we give. It's just helping people realize that leaving your vehicle warm up with your keys in it, the likelihood of it getting taken right away is pretty high. It takes a matter of seconds to take the vehicle. So I have our rural crime officer doing a deep dive into that, as why is this trending in this area right now in the last quarter of motor vehicles. And unfortunately, a lot of the stats is keys are being left in the vehicle. So it's really hard to combat that crime when they're leaving the keys in the vehicle. Someone's going around checking doors, sees the key, take the vehicle, and off they go. It's pretty quick. And oftentimes it gets reported sometimes a day later that the vehicle is missing. Theft files as well. They're trending down. Theft under, we're down to 26 from 38 last quarter. And 26 of those, I think out of 26, there was 10 of those that were unfounded. So even less than the number that's showing. So a lot of times we'll get a call, for example, somebody will say their vehicle's stolen in a parking lot and they just couldn't find it. And we go to the call to look for a vehicle, and then the person calls back and says, oh, I parked at the wrong spot. So we had 10 of those that were unfounded. So instead of you seeing the accurate number of 26, it's more like 16. So which is not a bad number from last quarter. There was 38 files. With the types of crime that I'm seeing, like I said, it's crime is trending down. I do believe this community to be a very safe community to be in. It's very proactive by municipal enforcement along with us with the RCMP. And the community engagement has increased drastically. So we are doing a lot of community events throughout to show visibility, to be out in the community. We've partnered with Mountain View County. I can't remember what the name of them are. They're fairly new to me. We did a Christmas toy drive at the Walmart over the holidays to cram the cruiser, and it was very successful. We crammed the cruiser full with that. Gave it to the organization who was able to give families in need toys over Christmas. for families that didn't have a lot of to give their kids over Christmas. So it was a big initiative, and as well the hockey game that was held by Constable Price and Fire with Phil the Boot. We participated with them as well in that, and just being active, being engaged in the community, and trying to get to many community events as we can get to. Staffing levels were looking pretty good. We had one of our ODS long term start back last week. So he's on what's called a graduated return to work. So he's slowly getting back to work. He works a few days during the week. Those would be obviously mostly admin duties, which helps our officers obviously get on the road more because he's able to take that information on. And we also have an incoming corporal for our provincial side coming in from V Division. And I'm expecting her to come sometime in March on the provincial side. That would leave us with 2 members left that would be on. One is parental leave and one is obviously ODS. So number-wise, we're going to be in pretty good shape. With that, that's pretty much what I have. Like I said, types of crime. Oh, and I did want to touch base on drug enforcement. Constable Boise's been very active in this area. I know last week alone he arrested 2 individuals for trafficking cocaine and meth, and was able to bring them into the custody. One got remanded, one got released. And so he's doing proactive work on that. And I see in 2024 there is no drug trafficking files. In 2025 we have 6. So he's been proactively engaging during this quarter with drug trafficking, and he's obviously making an impact in it. With that, that's pretty much what I have for you.
Good, thank you for that report. Look to council now for any questions. Councilor Kirsch.
Thank you, and through you to Constable Staff Sergeant Day. On the fraud, what type of fraud are you finding happening in town? Is this like what I worry my mother or grandmother's going to get involved with buying gift cards at the grocery store and sending them off to India, or is this like a more homegrown type of fraud?
Surprisingly, I do see a lot of that in my previous posts with the Apple gift cards and stuff. I haven't seen a lot of that here. What we're seeing is it's a lot of online. So it's a lot of Facebook Marketplace in different areas like that. So a lot of things that are going online that people are seeing a deal that maybe it's too good to be true, and they're entertaining that deal. And once the transaction's made, that it's gone. So we do post when we can. We try to find anti-fraud center that's online. We try to share that information as much as we can, that anybody has access to it. The different types of frauds that are out there, the ones that are trending, what we're seeing more, and trying to get that education out there through our Facebook page to try to help curve that fraud down. But it's nothing that we're seeing, like you'll see the odd few that will come in that will be a decent size of value that they've lost. But the majority of ones that we're seeing recently are like $50, $25, $100, $200, stuff like that type of frauds, which do take up an incredible amount of work from an officer to investigate a $50 fraud. And what we're finding in the short term is that we ask them to at least contact their bank. When they do, and 9 times out of 10 they get the money returned to them. And I know the bank has kind of pushed back on that a little bit because they're the ones that are giving the money, and the bank doesn't feel like they should be the ones to be at fault because they're the ones that are buying into what this person's selling and the money's being taken, right? So, but majority of it's pretty low amounts.
Yeah, and I had a question just in regards to fraud as well. Like in the past, it's been singled towards mostly senior citizens and phone fraud and so forth. Are we still seeing a lot of that in our community, or is that kind of tapered off now?
It's come down a fair bit. I know a lot of seniors places will bring in people to do presentations on fraud. I know I've done that myself to try to bring the awareness, and I think one of the frustrating is that you share that information, you share it a lot, and then next day you get a phone call and someone was frauded, right? So it's tough when you can't be there, and you try and explain to them that if it's too good to be true, it probably is, but for some reason they seem to still want to buy into that, and unfortunately lose their money. So it's frustrating.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Daly. Through you to the Staff Sergeant. I don't normally zero in on individual line items in the statistics, but just the one thing caught my eye. Just wondering if you have any high-level comments. Municipal bylaws. 29 and 2025. I guess the root of my question is that increasing social disorder, or are we just more vigilant, so we got a blitz on? Thank you.
No, you know what? A lot of it's dogs. We do get a lot of dog bylaw complaints. And I can say the municipal enforcement has been great with that. So we may have got the original file, and a lot of times they'll take that file from us, which then will alleviate the member to go and do policing duties.
Councillor Cook.
Thank you, Mayor Daly, and through you to Staff Sergeant Day. For Operation Cold Start, sounds like a fantastic preventative start that you're doing. You did say that there's been no negative complaints. Have you received any positive reinforcement after you've been doing that with our residents?
With just that cold start? No, I think the big thing is isn't something new. Operation Cold Start's been around for quite a long time. And I've always been engaged in Operation Cold Start, and it's just getting the members out being proactive, getting them checking on people who are idling their vehicles. I'd say the most backlash we get from it is on social media. People feels like we're going to issue a ticket. There's no ticket to be issued. It's just help individuals protect their assets, right, their vehicles and such. And it's a way of promoting that and showing them crime prevention. But unfortunately, some people think it's automatic that they're going to get a ticket from us, and that's not the case.
Thank you. Councillor Blatz. No, you, then.
Okay, thank you. Now we got that sorted out. Through you, Mayor Daly, to Staff Sergeant Day. Going back to the fraud a little bit, I know you've got a Facebook page up and running, which I do follow. I'm trying to stay off social media an awful lot these days. But when you talk about fraud and the types of fraud you're seeing, are you posting examples or how to prevent this? Are you utilizing your Facebook page or your social media page to make people aware, you know, what to watch out for and those types of things? Because I think that might be a valuable tool to maybe mitigate some of these things.
And we do. We'll, if we see that the anti-fraud is very good at, Center is very good at highlighting those type of frauds, and if we catch that there's a fraud that's trending high, we'll share that, because they'll actually do a post on it, and we just share their post. So they get access to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center and the post that we just reshared from them. So if we do see something that's, okay, you know what, this is probably could happen in our area, then we'll share it if it's high risk. And also, like, there's even little things that we've shared in the past, like how to check for web addresses, how they can look. You look at them just quickly, and it looks just like it's supposed to be, but there's an O that could be capitalized, that's not capitalized, that you don't pick up on. And that's probably my biggest comment post I've received on positive feedback, was that we would have never known that until you shared that image of that website. So we try and find things like that to share if we can.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
Thanks, Mayor Daly, and through you to Staff Sergeant Jamie Day. Just some criticism, hopefully light criticism, constructive perhaps, on the Coffee with a Cop program. So I went there last time, met with Constable Abdul Fattah, and what he told me, there was only 2 participants there that day, and I did recognize those participants from the previous time. I have a bit of a concern that it's just becoming a little bit of an insular group, or not enough welcoming presence. When I did come there, I did almost have the impression that it was a private event. There's no signage, or I guess very little effort to start dragging people, sit them down and have a conversation with them. I was just maybe suggesting some kind of signage or some more indication that this is an event for the public, for them to sit down, have a coffee, have a cookie, and chat with the intended purpose of the program. I just don't believe it's running maybe as intended.
I completely agree with your comments. I will take fault for the last one. I was relocating from Tree Hills to Olds, so I haven't really been here in the last week and a half with the movers and packing and selling of the house and purchase the house. I usually put that on Facebook, usually the day before or 2 days before. I'll post on Facebook, Coffee with the Cop, the location. So you'll see in previous times, you'll see that last Thursday of the month. You'll see I've posted previous ones. This one I didn't post. I just slipped my mind with busy moving, family, new school for kids, that kind of stuff. And so that one's definitely on me. But you're not wrong when you come to saying that we are starting to see some of the same people. I don't know if it's just for the free coffee or if it's for the goodies. But the intention of this program is to engage with community. It's to be able to engage on one-on-one in a healthy communication with individuals, to talk about policing, talk about their concerns, and what we're doing in the community and the things that we're making progress in and those things. We want to have that communication with our public. It's not always easy to do, but I'd like to continue trying it and pushing that. But like I said, I can tell you I take full responsibility for the last one. I didn't get it posted online in time, and that's on me. So that could have been one of the reasons why.
Supplement.
Okay. Yeah, and Facebook aside, I'm not even on Facebook. I want to get those notifications. When you walk in, it does look like a private conversation. So just if that was more inviting to the person who just not on Facebook and randomly stumbles by. And we'll take up that opportunity to have that coffee with a cop. Thanks.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree with you. That's the goal. End goal at the end of it is sit down and have a meaningful conversation with our public.
And you're more than welcome to come to the farmer's market and set up a booth next to us. Hey, we have a fun time, so.
If you're getting traction, then maybe it's a spot for us to go.
Yeah, we'll reserve one for you next market. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Daley, and through you to the staff sergeant. I'm a little bit behind the times. I still drive a vehicle where I got to put a key in the door to unlock it. But I was talking to somebody the other day, and they talked about they were parked in town, a resident, and when they came out, some of the contents of their vehicle had been stolen through somebody intercepting their fob frequency or something like that. Can you comment on how prevalent that is, and have you got any tips, suggestions for people that have those state-of-the-art vehicles?
I'd say it's rare. Like, we don't get a lot of calls that somebody has intercepted somebody's. Now, there could be they had lost a fob, and a lot of times when a fob goes missing, someone finds it. It's not unheard of for an individual to go around neighborhoods and just keep pressing the button. And as soon as you see the flashing lights, well, then you know you have your vehicle. And I can't get into exactly what would happen, but I don't know if there's maybe something to do with the dealership and type of fobs and those type of things. And that's just speculation on my part. But very rare.
Okay, any other questions or comments for Staff Sergeant? All right, seeing none, thank you very much for attending our meeting today and giving us our report in our package as well as in your presence here as well. So I ask for a motion. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. I make the motion that Council accepts the Royal Canadian Mounted Police quarterly report as presented.
Thank you for that. Any questions, comments before we? Okay, all those in favor? That's passed unanimously. Thank you very much. All right, moving down to item 4.2, Protective Services 2025 fourth quarter report. And turn it over to Director Andrews.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I will give you our fourth quarter report for Protective Services, starting with our incident breakdown for fire in the fourth quarter. Nothing that was out of the realm of normal for us, and this is urban response. And we finish up our year with the numbers in the year to date. So again, this is just for the urban, it didn't account for the rural. The big one for us obviously is medical response, which again are kind of time and space dependent. Our average shoot time was the 9 minutes and 31 seconds, which is 90% of the time. So that's below our targeted KPI for that, is that we want to be out the door under 10 minutes, 90% of the time. So again, these numbers work well for that, which indicates a healthy response of our firefighter members. And just, sorry, going back on that is just, that's a truck out the door with 4 firefighters. That's not just the chief officer responding in an individual apparatus. Rural responses for the same period, again, fairly light for the most part. Again, nothing out of the ordinary. Again, medical usually takes a dominant number, and it was there again. And moving down into our provincial, so this is typically motor vehicle collisions and or our mutual aid responses in the fourth quarter. So again, we didn't have a terrible November, December as far as weather, so our motor vehicle collisions on the highways were somewhat subdued, although 18 doesn't look like that. And again, yeah, so those numbers totaling for the year. And when we came up to our annual total, we were at 467 calls on the total for the year of 2025. Retention and recruitment. So some of the activities in the fourth quarter. So we were actively recruiting for new members, and that process has since completed. So we have letters of offer going out to, I believe, 10 new firefighters, paid on call firefighters from the community. And we had 16 total applicants. Some of the training, we had a very busy fourth quarter. We were conducting the NFPA 1001 certification for firefighters. So we had 12 firefighters going through that process, and they put in a ton of time in that quarter, which accounted for a large portion of that 1,366 hours. And you can see that's why there's the discrepancy there between the fourth quarter of 2024, when you have 12 firefighters meeting every week for 3 months. It adds up in a hurry. And that training was provided with our participation in the provincial firefighting grant, training grant that comes forward. So a lot of the funding that went towards training those firefighters all came from that provincial program, which has been in the news recently. Some of the highlights we had in this quarter, we had our annual charity hockey game with the RCMP for the Christmas Angels Food Bank. And so we played the College Broncos girls hockey team, which was a great session. Approximately $10,000 was raised for those charities. We did our smoke alarm blitz in October during Fire Prevention Week, where members of the fire department went out door to door, and I believe it was kind of the southeast area of town this year, and knocked on doors, raising awareness of smoke alarms and handing out batteries and smoke alarms to people that didn't have them. So again, it's a fairly limited program, but aimed around Fire Prevention Week, and very well received by the community. The biggest thing is I know there's lots of people that would like to see us come to their house, and so we're trying to hit the areas that are identified, but ultimately cost is one of the big factors. Is we can't provide smoke alarms to everybody, or we can't put our firefighters out there continuously. It would take weeks to do that. So anyway, we are doing it with a focused effort on the areas of greatest need, and we will eventually get to everybody. Moving into municipal enforcement, some of our KPIs for the quarter is our bylaw complaints received. You can see all of the different realms there, and again, it's fairly consistent with a lot of the different areas of the year. The biggest one that comes is obviously in the winter. Some things go down, such as animals or things like unsightly premise, and then it's replaced with things like snow removal and some traffic control concerns. And so looking at the number of citations issued in the quarter, again, are pretty consistent. So the biggest piece is the number of citations versus the actual number of warnings are somewhat different. A lot of times with the compliance that we're trying to do with education is we took a big premise this year with the resources available. We were actively able to engage citizens with snow removal on sidewalks. Traditionally, previously, it was very hard to do that with 2 officers to try to hit the whole town. And now what they've done is they've gone out and they're following the same as the snow removal routes for snow clearing. So purple, red, and yellow is their first priority. And our aim as municipal enforcement is to hit all of the town areas within approximately 15 working days, where we can do a complete patrol and address any concerns that are witnessed. Just simply in the first 2 rounds that we've done this winter season, it's been slower simply because there's a lot of behaviors that have been acquired over time with a lack of progressive enforcement or proactive enforcement, if you will. Traditionally, sidewalk snow clearing has come as a direct result of somebody's personal complaint, whereas we're actually going door to door knocking on people saying, hey, you got to move your snow. And so they opted with more of an awareness education route. So they were issuing warnings first without going straight to a ticket. And as we go forward, we hope that it'll actually tighten up on time. They'll be able to do it a lot faster. And instead of the warnings, we'll end up going to ticketing once people's behaviors have been made aware and activities changed. Some of the highlights, again, that participated in the charity check stop with the RCMP and fire. There's been some targeted traffic enforcement activities in some high density areas, or areas of hotspot, if you will, where people tend to have complaints, such as near the hospital. 70th Avenue is always one that people tend to go a little faster than they should because it's wide open. Again, areas on 54th Street near the Auction Mart, and Shannon Drive is always an area of concern with citizens there, but speed and driving activities. Again, one of the biggest projects that was on the go with municipal enforcement, took a lot of man-hour time, was the successful completion of the unsightly property downtown with the old Sipperley garage. From that process, start to finish, with all of the legal reference and process that was required, right through to having that building completely taken down and left in the state that it is, took a lot, which was, I think, a substantial improvement for the downtown core. And so there are other properties on the radar in the future where, again, consultation with the property owners, trying to seek compliance and change in the current situation is always the first priority before demolition is sought, but those will be works in progress. Moving to emergency management, the work in the fall that was done was, there was a facilitation of a table talk exercise with the college, and obviously all of you as elected officials got to participate for the local authority elected official course from AEMA. There's some new partnerships in the works where we've engaged some of the local service clubs to be advocates and or assets for in the time of an emergency. So recently the Kiwanis Club has agreed to participate, that if there was such a event in Olds that required, large number of donations, or whether it's financial or things like clothing, food, etc., that they've agreed to help facilitate that for us. And so it's a great use of people that are dedicated to the community that, could come in and they understand the ins and outs of taking donations and how to manage that. And so we're excited about the partnerships that that's going to bring, and the training opportunities, and alleviating some of the burden that's traditionally been left to town staff to have to facilitate in time of an emergency. So that's emergency management in a nutshell. Looking forward here for Q1 in 2026, again, is bringing on our new recruit group, which is coming along nicely. We're doing a major review of all of our standard operating guidelines for the department, and working on a service level review document as far as specifically our scope of practice and the type of calls that we respond to and how. So EMS service is definitely one of those. I did speak to it previously about how we're trying to minimize the number of call outs, and we're happy to respond when we're required, but we want to try to trim so that we don't get those call outs where we hit a trigger, like if an ambulance is greater than 15 minutes away, but if that ambulance is only 16 minutes away, the fire department gets called out as a first responder, and in that 16 minutes the ambulance arrives before the fire department even gets there. So that's a needless call out. So we're trying to refine that and trim it so that we're only calling when we actually can provide a service. Municipal enforcement, again, we're working to be more proactive and to refine that process on the snow removal, change behaviors on sidewalks. Traffic safety and visibility, which is a big one. Again, we've been working on some of those target areas in the higher traffic locations. We have seen a substantial decline in the reported issues in such as the downtown area. So even though there was some short-term pain with tickets and warnings in the downtown business core with speed, we have seen a substantial improvement and decline in those behaviors, which that's ultimately the goal in any traffic safety initiative. And our continued monitoring of parking, which is, again, in the uptown, is a big one. We always have a little bit of overlap with the college, with lots of residents, because the campus there is full. Parking will overlap onto like such as the pool and some of the residential areas. So we have to work to make sure that they know they can't park in those spots. And then again, with emergency management, we're working on a lower level council focused tabletop exercise to give you more experience and understanding of what your role is in a municipal emergency. And again, they're working on some more stuff at the college there to do an active shooter exercise, which is kind of the flavor of what emergency management focus is right now in education institutions. With that, I would take any questions that you might have.
Thank you for that report, Director Andrews. Councillor Overwater.
Thank you, Mayor Daly. To Director Andrew, on your shoot times, you have urban shoot time at 9:31, you have your rural shoot time at 9:28, and then you have your highway shoot time at 9:09. To me, that seems a little opposite. Doesn't it? Just a question. I mean, it seems like it should take you longer to get out to the highway than it would in our town here.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So the one thing with shoot times is that there's a bearing on the time of response based on the severity of the call. And so the one thing that our demographics show is that when we get called to a higher risk or a kind of higher priority type call, our shoot times actually decrease. And I don't know, I mean, I attribute it a lot to the fact that when you hear that a house is on fire or, there's a big car accident, the guys do get, a little bit ramped up with adrenaline, and so they know it's a little more serious, and so they take action a little faster than if you hear that, it's a residential smoke alarm call that you likely can attribute to, like burnt toast or a malfunction on an alarm. So that does have an impact. The other thing that there is that the data can be skewed on those the highway calls, because a lot of times when we're out there, another accident will happen and we will actually deploy from the previous site, which does skew the numbers. But the one nice thing is that all of those numbers being in that 9 minute, like, it is very healthy. And again, take the data for what it is. It is somewhat subjective, but it's pretty strong indicator.
Thank you. Any other questions, Council? Councillor Taylor.
Thanks, Mayor Daly, and through you to Director Andrews. I'm a little disheartened to hear that tabletop of active shooters is something that needs to be trained for in today's day and age, but I suppose it's a real risk. I'm curious, with the one that just happened to Olds College, is the outcome of that being extra hardening needed against this with their security, or are we just talking training alone? Thank you.
Yeah, no, your sentiment is echoed widely, is that it's sad that we have to train for those things. The biggest piece is that when we do these exercises, that the biggest piece is that there's a real change in focus on how emergency responders respond to such incidents. And not that long ago, the reality is that if you had an incident such as an active shooter, the police responded differently, where they used to, like, they would surround a building and they would secure entry and they would try to negotiate and talk and whatever. And with all of the experience happening in the States, they found law enforcement is that it's ineffective, because the people that are affected, potentially victims, essentially have poor outcomes because people die from a lack of care urgently. And so the focus now is that the police take immediate action. They don't stay and wait for anybody else to help them. The first officer arriving on scene would directly go and try to resolve the situation or eliminate the threat. And so it takes a careful orchestrated plan to integrate with the care. And so that's where fire and EMS come into it, that, our members would be participating alongside law enforcement, where they're kind of taking care of the threat, and then we have to take care of the victims. And to operate in that takes a lot of coordination. So the training is huge for that. And it's not something that's common for a lot. So that's why there is emphasis. And with the college, again, they've been really good partners, and they're really happy to go along with this and have the expertise of the RCMP and emergency services that actually want to engage with them. And that's the big piece, and it changes with different administrations and different abilities. Our college is not so big that it's a task that's not capable. You couldn't do this kind of training at a larger institution without having big ramifications. So, that's where the focus comes.
Councillor Overwater.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. On a different topic, with the municipal enforcement on, in the road in front of the arena, library, cadet hall, all of that. Like, I've had quite a few complaints about after supper hours where some generation would use that as a speedway. Is there any traffic calming measures that could be put in there to maybe stop it from being a half a mile, speedway?
Yeah, so one thing that was when the redevelopment and the overlay was done there on 52nd, they did put in some traffic calming measures, which was the teardrops there around at the arena. That's specifically intended to slow traffic going by there. Now, not anything is, it doesn't fix it all. We have put up, and we will put up again, our speed signs on 52nd. A lot of the data that we find or have found in the past certainly doesn't substantiate that it's a large-scale problem. I'm not going to say that there aren't people that go by in speed, but it's not like we're seeing dozens of cars, racing and traveling high rates of speeds. It's very limited numbers. And so, again, just because we didn't capture it doesn't mean it's not happening. So it's going to be a continued piece that patrol is absolutely one of the things that we'll do. And then, like say, speed signs.
Supplemental?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Daley. Again, back to the traffic calming measures on 57th Avenue going out of town. Is there any sort of traffic calming measures that can be put in there? Well, Mayor Daley lives right there. There's residents there that feel that it's pretty noisy when they get to the stop sign and then all of a sudden they just gunner and they're out of there. And it usually happens later at night. But is there some sort of, like if we had speed bumps that we have over here at the Rotary Park, that would certainly calm things.
There are definitely, we can always look, and again, it's just going to be continued enforcement. It's when people know that there's consequence for action, that's the biggest deterrent for sure. It's always hesitant with things like speed bumps because it creates more problems for municipal services such as snow clearing, and it probably makes the people that travel it on a regular basis following the law a lot more frustrated. But it's the speed signs, it's having the RCMP and municipal enforcement setting up speed traps in the morning and later at night. And the one piece that does give us a little opportunity is with our split schedule with our municipal enforcement officers, having them working later. It does create that opportunity for us. Whereas traditionally when they finished, they worked 8:30 to 4:30, you're missing a lot of that. So definitely a focus that's going to stay on the radar for this year and forward.
Thank you for those answers, Director Andrews. Any other comments or questions? No? Then I'll call for a motion, please. Councillor Cook, he hasn't said anything today.
I move that council accepts the Protective Services fourth quarter report as presented.
Thank you for that. Any further comments, questions? All right, all in favor? That is passed unanimously. Thank you very much for your report, Director Andrews. Keep up the good work. Stay safe out there. All right. All right, takes us to section 5 of our agenda, bylaws. 5.1, bylaw 2026-04, records and information management. I'll turn it over to CAO Williams for introductions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And Director Lindeman is going to lead us through this topic. Over to Sheena.
Thank you. So today we're looking for all 3 readings of our records and information management bylaw. This bylaw has been updated to comply with changes that the Government of Alberta recently made in repealing the FOIP Act and replacing it with the Access to Information and Protection of Privacy Acts. Those are the only changes that have been made to the document. I would open up to any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Director Linderman? Councillor Taylor?
Thanks, Mayor Daly. Through you to Director Linderman. So if I'm understanding this correctly, we're just talking about swapping out the acronyms.
Correct, yeah. Just the red line changes that were within the agenda.
Okay, good. Any other questions, comments? All right, Councillor Overwater.
Thank you, Mayor Daly. Yes, I move that the Records and Information Management Bylaw 2026-04 be given first reading as presented.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions? None. All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Councillor Wilson?
I'll make the second motion. Recommend that the Records and Information Management Bylaw 2026-04 be given second reading as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Any further questions or comments? All right, I'll ask who's in favor? And that is passed unanimously as well. And the unanimous consent, Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Daly. I move that the Records and Information Management Act Bylaw 2026-04 be given unanimous consent for presentation of third reading.
Thank you, Councillor Blatz. Any other questions or concerns on that one? Okay, all in favor? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Councillor Kirsch?
I make the motion that the Records and Information Management Bylaw 2026-04 be given third reading as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Kirsch. Questions, comments? See none. All in favor? That is passed unanimously as well. Thank you very much for that. Moves us down to 5.2, Boring Bylaw. Director Lindeman?
Thank you. And again, we are looking for all three readings of our borrowing bylaw. That is the bylaw to establish a line of credit with ATB. So annually, ATB asks us to renew this borrowing bylaw. The borrowing bylaw is for an operating line of credit on our general checking account. It is in place as just short-term bridge financing should an emergency situation occur. We are asking this year for an increase from the $500,000 to $1 million, as $500,000 doesn't go that far in an emergency these days. To date, this line of credit has never been used, and I would open up to any questions.
Thank you for that. Councillor Kirsch?
Just for my knowledge, what type of incident would require use of such line of credit?
I would hate to forecast an emergency, so any sort of big emergency that we couldn't free up funds immediately in order to call in whatever resources we need.
Type of emergency that we went over, say, at the safety training session at the fire hall, that type of thing?
Correct,
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, then I'll ask for motion. Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me. Thank you, Mayor Daly. I make the recommendation that bylaw 2026-05, excuse me, being a borrowing bylaw to establish a line of credit with ATB Financial for the purpose of paying operating expenses be introduced and given first reading.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Any further comments? All those in favor? That motion is passed. For the second, Councillor Taylor.
Thanks, Mayor Daly. I move that bylaw 2026-05, being a borrowing bylaw to establish a line of credit with ATB Financial for the purposes of paying operating expenses, be given second reading.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Any questions or concerns on that motion? Go ahead, Councillor Overwater.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. So the way the motion reads, should it also have in there for unexpected or emergency expenses, or do you just want that as a blanket so you can use it for if all of a sudden you have an operating issue you're going to take from there?
Correct, yeah. So it is just connected right to our general checking account. So it would encompass any time that we dip into that zero mark.
Good, thank you. Any other questions, comments? All right, so we have a motion on the floor from Councillor Taylor. All those in favor? Okay, passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Next, Councillor Kush.
I move that unanimous consent be given to present borrowing bylaw 2026-05 for third reading.
Thank you. Okay, all in favor? Okay, that is passed unanimously as well. All right, and our third reading, Councillor Cook.
I move that bylaw 2026-05, being a borrowing bylaw to establish a line of credit with ATB Financial for the purpose of paying operating expenses, be given third reading.
Thank you, Councillor Cook. And last chance for any questions or concerns? All right, all those in favor? Motion is passed unanimous. Thank you very much, Director Lindeman, for bringing this forward. Right, takes us to Section 6, Business Development Permits. Mr. Hill is going to be presenting this. Thank you.
All right. Good afternoon, Council. This first application in front of you first, I'll preface some of you who've seen my applications before might note this looks a little different. That's because we rolled out our e-permitting software that changed our naming conventions and how things look. How the actual land use bylaws implemented and approvals are made has not changed. So with that, we received an application for a shipping container at 4501 46th Avenue. This is in northeast portion of town on a parcel designated future urban. This parcel shipping containers are a council discretionary use. Typically, I wouldn't recommend approval of a shipping container on a residential parcel. However, given that this one is an isolated parcel, not in a residential community, and it's in an adequately screened off portion of the parcel, we have no concerns with this from an administration perspective. The intent of a shipping container, a resident is moving into town temporarily. This container will hold his belongings as he builds his home. He's not sure how long it's going to be there, and that's why I haven't attached a timeline to this permit. And that's I circulated it to adjacent landowners, and I received no concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Any questions or comments from council? Or Councilor Blatz?
No questions. I was just going to make the motion if no one has a question.
I do have one question on this. Oh, go ahead, Councillor Cook. Do you have a question?
Yes, thank you. And through you to Officer Nathan. Is it recommended by administration that we don't set a timeline on this permit for this, what they say is a temporary use permit?
Thank you, and through the chair. administration has no concerns with this being a permanent approval, given that adjacent uses are commercial and it's a screened off area. Like practically speaking, if the applicant hadn't asked for it and he just put it on there, I would have never known. So we don't have any concerns on this one. Thank you.
Councillor Cook took my question just because it could be there forever if we don't put a timeline on it. Is there any kind of reasoning that we wouldn't put like a 3-year or a 5-year timeline on this application?
Nope. With this being a discretionary use, if council sees a benefit in that, I don't see any harm.
All right, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Daly, and through you to Mr. Hill. So along this line of question of examining, what would be the bring forward process? I don't want to get too hung up on this container. You mentioned it's isolated and screened off and everything, but so we leave it open-ended. Like, what's the bring forward process within your group that would say we would check within a year's time or whatever, or is there? Thanks.
Do you mean if we imposed a condition along those lines, how would I verify? Or
no, if we set no condition and a timeline or whatever, so leave it open ended. Is there any mechanism that we would go back in 12 or 15 months and inquire of the resident? Are you still using this? Is it still necessary, or you know what I mean?
Right. Thank you. And through the chair, no. If there isn't a timeline expressed in the permit, it's assumed it's a permanent approval.
Thank you. Councillor Overwater.
Thank you, Mayor Daly. To you, Director Mr. Hill. So you stated that the container was to contain all of his worldly possessions while he builds a house. So, I mean, it's not going to take him 3 to 5 years to build a house. I'm thinking, wouldn't we put a year on it? Like, it doesn't take a year to build a house, does it?
It can.
Okay, then put 18 months. But I mean, no, I think somewhere along their line there should be a timeline. Just my opinion.
Go ahead.
Excuse me. Thank you. For that, in my discussions with the applicant, he was estimating roughly a year and a half to 2 years. Our temporary approval provision, which applies to permitted uses, gives a maximum of 6 months. I believe in that. That's why I didn't explore it further. However, with this being a discretionary use, if council sees a benefit in it, we can absolutely go down that route.
And that would just be my concern, is that we set a precedent for other places in Olds that we don't put a time limit on this, then down the road somebody else is going to put forward an application with the same reasoning, and well, this guy did it, why can't I, right? That would be my thinking, just keep it under wraps. But Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Daly. And just a comment I want to make to this. I don't want to get hung up on the timeline here because I think that Mr. Hill has really kind of covered all of this. But I would think that if they're applying for a development permit and a building permit to build a home, once that home was completed, then our department would realize that it is done and that this is a temporary facility and fixture. It needs to be removed. And I think that, I mean, for us to say it's going to be 18 months and it takes him 2 years to build a home, you know, I think that needs to be recognized. And going forward, I think we can do this on a individual basis. But for right now, I don't really want to get hung up on a timeline because there is no way to determine how long this could potentially take. But I think there will be other mechanisms in place in order for them to be able to say that this is actually a finished project and that this needs to be removed.
You you want to reply to that, Mr. Hill, or?
Sure. I'd say if a permit expires and the house hasn't been constructed, there's nothing barring the applicant from applying for an extension to you. So that's an avenue as well.
Councillor Overwater.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. Yeah, that's what I would like to see, is a timeline in there of 2 years then, and then if the house isn't built, they can come back and reapply for that permit. Whereas, I mean, we can assume, and we all know what happens when we assume that people are going to do things and they don't. So I would, in my opinion, I'd like to see a 2-year timeline, and then they can come back on asking for a further extension.
CEO Williams?
Thank you, Mayor Daley. In the interest of time, could you ask council to provide a motion adding a condition to this development permit approval that a 2-year window be applied? So the motion would read that additional condition was a 24-month temporary permit on site, 24 months on site.
Exactly. Yep. That sounds like a great idea. All right. Do I have somebody who would like to make the motion? Councillor Overwater?
Thank you, Mayor Daley. Yes, I move that council approve development permit PRMO 2026011. I think I'm on the right one. Subject to the conditions, with the added condition of a 24-month timeline. Does that work for you, administration? Outlined in the attached document, added to the attached document.
Thank you. Any further questions or concerns? All right, all those in favor? Ooh. Catch it on the next one? Okay, go ahead.
Would Councillor Overwater be open to a friendly amendment of 3 years? Just for some extra padding, I want to be as permissive as possible for this resident. Okay.
3 years then is the friendly amendment. Okay? All right, all those in favor with the amendment? That is passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Mr. Hill.
Excellent. Thank you. On to the next one. We received an application for a short-term rental at 5210 44th Street. This is a low-density residential legacy district, the former R1. Short-term rentals are council discretionary use. I circulated to adjacent landowners and I received no comments. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Any questions on this motion? Makes sense to everyone? Okay, I ask for somebody to make a motion then, please. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. I make the recommendation that council approve, or the motion that council approve development permit PRMO-2026-008, subject to the conditions outlined in the attached document.
All right, thank you for that. Questions or concerns on this? Any last ones? You're good, Councillor Taylor? All right. Who would like to make the motion? Oh, we did it. We're got to vote. Sorry. It's been a long day. Leave me alone. Okay. All those in favor? There we go. Thank you very much. Passed unanimously. And Mr. Hill, the next one.
All right, excellent. Thank you. I got one more for you here. On the point of clarification, I have a couple typos in this. It is not permit 2026-0006. It is 0005. So that's a correction. Late last year, administration received a compliance request at Adams Hicks Valiant. As part of our review, I noted parcel coverage was approximately 89%, well exceeding the 55% maximum in this district. I issued a compliance letter noting the defect to a landowner. They raised that they received a compliance letter in 2013, which was identical and did not note the defect. Typically, administration would not recommend approval of a variance this large. However, noting how the applicant did their due diligence and got a compliance letter at the time of their original purpose or their original purchase, administration is recommending approval in this case. Circulated to adjacent landowners, and we received no comments. Thank you.
All right, questions on this one? Anyone? So just to get this clear, that there was a letter of compliance that was given back, I believe I read it in 2013, but we didn't have a record of that on our files, and so then this is to do a bit of housekeeping. Is that what we're hearing?
Excuse me. We have a record of that compliance letter. The development officer at the time did not note that there was a parcel coverage variance needed here because there was a failure of administration at the time.
Oh, okay. All right. All right, that makes sense. Okay, everybody on board? Need somebody to make motion. Councillor Taylor.
Thanks, Mayor Daly. I move that council approve development permit PRMO-2026-0005, subject to the conditions outlined in the attached document.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? Call for the vote. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? One opposed, so 6-1, motion passes. Thank you for that. Okay, takes us down to 6.2, sponsorship request, Olds High School ASLC Conference. CAO Williams, would you be speaking to this?
Yes, I will. Thank you, Mayor Daly. So this is a sponsorship request to council with a few options for your consideration. Administration didn't put a recommendation as this is a new request, but it does generally fit within council's informal parameters of trying to encourage more economic traffic in Olds while also supporting a key community partner. So I believe there are various stages in the attached package of sponsorship for council. Administration's approval is down to $500. So further down, sorry, I'll scroll down so everyone can see. There we are. I think in the past, for similar events, council has ranged between $1,000 and $1,500 for similar types of events, but it's up to council from zero to, I think you have about $6,000 left in your budget, but don't go that high. But what council wants to give along these parameters, if anything.
Thank you for that. Can we get input from council then? What would be your comfort levels? We're looking for an amount here and discussion on that. So, Councillor Overwater.
Thank you, Mayor Daly. I'm comfortable with 500. I'm comfortable with that.
Thank you. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Daly, and I'm also comfortable with $500. And as a note, I did do some billeting in a couple of these leadership conferences that came into town, and it's a really good experience. And it does bring a lot to our town and a lot of recognition. So I think this is something council should focus and support, and I feel comfortable with $500 also.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Daly. Just one, I'm fine with 500. That was kind of a number I had read circled. Just through you to the CEO, just to confirm me. And so at $500, this would basically come out of a budget that you have available to administer. Is that correct? Did I hear that right?
Thank you for the question. Through the chair, it's still council's sponsorship budget. As at $500, I have the authority to approve without a motion, but that's why we brought it to council in case you wanted to go higher than $500. But yeah, it's still council's budget, and the motion would read, for instance, $500 in the above blank space.
Thank you. I'm fine with 500.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, so then Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. I move that a one-time donation of $500 be approved for the Alberta Student Leadership Conference 2026 ASLC that will be held May 1st to 3rd, 2026.
Thank you, Councillor Blatz. Any further discussion, questions? All right, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? It is 6-1. Thank you very much for that. So moves us down to 6.3, COTW policy recommendations. Over to CAO Williams.
Yes, me again. Councillor Daly, you and I missed this meeting, so we're not in a place to quite go into depth here, but from what I understand, there was no significant conversations and no changes made since the committee of the whole meeting regarding these policy updates, but happy to take any questions now and defer them to Marcy.
Perfect. We got the expert on the floor now. All right. Any questions or concerns on this policy coming forward? No? Okay, somebody to make the motion then? Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. I move that council approves policy 101C, policy no, am I on the right one? Oh, yeah, sorry. Sorry, my apologies. I move that council approves policy 101C, policy governance framework as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Blatz. Any further comments? All right, all those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. So takes us down to 6.4, request for tax exemption. And Director Lindeman, you have the floor.
Thank you. The Municipal Government Act allows for council to grant property tax exemptions for nonprofit organizations that meet specific requirements under the Community Organization Property Tax Exemption Regulation, also known as COPTR, and much easier to say. There are 8 organizations that have submitted applications for the 2026 taxation year. These applicants have all met the timelines and information requirements that were set out in the regulation, and now it is up to council to decide if these properties are being used for a charitable and benevolent purpose that benefits the general public. So I think to make things easier, we'll go through each one individually, and council can have a discussion on each organization as we go. Okay, so the first one on here is Padnoma. Included in your agenda packages, there is a short document that shows the objective purpose that each organization gave us. I'm just going to find that on the screen here to follow along. And so for Padnoma, their objective purpose to support individuals with developmental disabilities in the community and their daily lives, support the community by supporting our clients to provide services such as grocery fills and deliveries, and also offering paper shredding services. So I would open up if council has any questions in regards to Padnoma.
Any questions? Councillor Overwater.
Okay, just so I'm reading this right, when we're going through the roll number, it corresponds with the first motion because it doesn't have them correlating, and I'm just wanting to make sure the right tax is being exempt for the right one that I'm reading.
So that's an access to information. We can't have the name of the tax, the person paying taxes linked to the actual exemption.
So how would I know that then? What I'm
You
trying
shouldn't,
to
that shouldn't
exempt?
cut, that's not part of the decision process, is how much the so the total exemption is 68,000. But if the if the nonprofit organization provides that charitable, if you feel they provide that charity to the public as a whole, they have to be, or must be exempt from taxes, is how the regulation reads. So it's not based on how much taxes they pay, per se.
It keeps the name of the organization away from the roll number.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, any other further questions? Councillor Taylor?
Thanks, Radio. Yeah, just more of a general question too. Am I to understand that restricting access based on gender is not something that can be restricted? Thanks.
Correct. So you can't have an organization that is for females only, because then you're taking out a general portion of your population.
Well, if that's not on the list here of restrictions, though, I don't see gender on there at all. Just race, culture, ethnic origin.
Yeah, those are just examples, but it
Okay.
is that cannot restrict access based on, as an example.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Then we'll make a motion on the first applicant.
Yeah, if you want to do it individually, that'd be great.
Councillor Kirsch.
I make the motion that the application for property tax exemption submitted by Padnoma Support Services be accepted for the 2026 taxation year.
Thank you for that. Any discussion? All in favor? That is passed unanimously. On to the next.
Okay, and the next one is Olds Area Pregnancy Support Center. So their purpose objective is to address and prevent specific problems faced by families by providing information, education, referrals, and support on issues such as abortion, adoption, parenting, prenatal development, and healthy relationships to individuals and families facing unexpected pregnancies. To undertake activities ancillary and incidental to the attainment of the above charitable purpose.
Thank you. Any questions or concerns on this one? Okay, seeing none, I ask for a motion. Councillor Overwater?
Thank you, Mayor Daley. I move that the application for property tax exemption submitted by Olds Area Pregnancy Support Center be accepted for the 2026 taxation year.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? That is passed unanimously. Thank you very much. On to the next.
And next we have Scouts Canada to develop well-rounded youth better prepared for success in the world, helping youth make a meaningful contribution to creating a better world, programming for co-ed children and youth ages 5 to 26. They offer a variety of fun experience, outdoor adventures, and over 13,000 nationwide volunteers provide youth with an opportunity to grow.
Thank you. I see Councillor Kirsch just took a bio break, so I'm wondering if we shouldn't just take a 5-minute recess here till he gets back. Hey, let's don't rush him. Give him 5. It's like building a house. Don't give him 2, give him 3.
I agree. 5 minutes.
That's called a 406. Okay, we'll reconvene at 4:08. Marcy, is everything okay? Yeah, I did. I thought I did. Okay. So we're at the application for property tax for the Scouts exemption.
Yes, correct.
Okay. And I think you went through your spiel already.
Yes.
Get caught up here again. All right. Is there any discussions or questions here? All right, then, Councillor Wilson.
You're looking for a motion? I can do that. That the application for property tax exemption submitted by Scouts Canada be accepted for the 2026 taxation year.
Thank you. All right, any further discussion? No? Okay, all in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Next one.
Okay, so next we have Imagine Gymnastics Club to promote and foster community spirit and better relations among the residents of the community and the community at large, to facilitate the recreational, cultural, social, athletic, ecological, and educational activities of the residents of the community, and to serve and promote the interest of the community as appropriate.
Thank you. Any questions or concerns on this one? Okay, seeing none, I need a motion. Councillor Taylor.
Thanks, Mayor Daly. I move that the application for property tax exemption submitted by Imagine Gymnastics Club be accepted for the 2026 taxation year.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Any last questions? Seeing none. All in favor? That is passed unanimous. Thank you very much. On to the next.
Next, we have Mountain View Hospice Society, and they've listed what their objects. New to you thrift store, the volunteerism, bereavement support, contact base, information base, communications and advocacy, the suites, NavCare support. So NavCare support is a free volunteer navigation program that supports people with declining health to live as well and independently at home for as long as possible.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions? Okay, I need somebody to make a motion then. Councillor Cook.
I move that the application submitted by Mountain View Hospice Society be accepted for the 2026 taxation year.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? That is passed unanimously. Thank you very much.
And the
Good.
next one is the Olds Grizzlies Foundation to provide a space to train teams together, provide a space where groups and organizations can meet, build a bridge between Olds Grizzlies Junior A team, all minor sports groups, and other nonprofit organizations, and to provide a kitchen video room.
Thank you. Any questions or discussions here? Okay, seeing none, I need a motion. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Daly. I move that the application submitted by the Olds Grizzly Foundation be accepted for the 2026 taxation year.
Thank you. Any further discussions? No. All those in favor? One opposed. That passes. Thank you very much. Next one, Mount View Lodge.
We have Mountain View Lodge, number 16, AF and AM, promote faith, hope, and charity within the community and raise funds for the Masonic Higher Education Bursary Fund.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Taylor?
Thanks, Mayor Daly. This one I do have concerns about, just on the word faith alone. Is that not against the idea that we need to be separating these by no restricted access based on religious beliefs? And then we have their letter here that was sent. The Mountain View Lodge number 16 is a nonprofit fraternal organization. Does that not what's the word for it? Exclude it on the fraternal basis alone? I would ask, would a female atheist be allowed in that fraternal organization? Thanks.
Through the chair, to Councillor Taylor, I see that Councillor Override has her hands up as well. We talked about this in previous years as well. One comment on it that relayed through others. It's about the building itself, not necessarily the organization. And it's our understanding they also make the building available to other users, including their Order of an Eastern Star, which is a female organization related to the both. So that's where the last conversation got us, that it was more inclusive than this, the Masons being a fraternal organization, that the building itself was open to a larger demographic. And perhaps Councillor Overwater wants to expand on that question. Answer.
Thank you. Councillor Overwater?
Thank you, Mayor Daley. Yes, this organization, possibly because you're stuck on the word fraternal, it also houses the Order of the Eastern Star, which is a male and a female organization that also operates out of there. And as CAO Williams mentioned, they also have other organizations that go into their building and use their building. They do lots of charitable work. They do lots of bursaries. They are not a high profile where they advertise all of their charity work. They are more behind the scenes as to what they do within the public. So that's why a lot of people don't understand their contribution to different charities and different students looking for bursaries and educational funding. So they are an old organization, absolutely. Is their society probably diminishing? Yes. However, I do believe that they are a good society, a good community group that we should support this where they have or they are exempted from taxes.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor?
Thanks, Mayor Dilly. My response would be that it's not this other organization that they lease the building out that's applying, it's the Mountain View Lodge number 16 that's applying, and they are a fraternal organization. I'd be happy to hear the other organization provide this application, but that's not who's applying. And I don't doubt the good works that they do around the community. I'm sure it is, but what I'm supposed to be doing here at this chair is if there's exemption to be had, I need to be following these rules. And as far as I'm reading and understanding them, that it should be disqualifying if they're a fraternal organization.
Thank you. Councillor Overwater?
Thank you, Mayor Daley. At the end of the day, I'm not sure who has title on that building. However, these two organizations have always shared this building. They've always done their meetings there. They've always done the same thing there. I mean, I can't say the women are allowed in the Masonic organization, but men are allowed in the Eastern Star organization, and they both are housed out of that building. And again, like I say, they both pay into that building to try and keep it supported. So, and with all the charity work that they do, I would really hate for us to not approve this exemption for them. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Any further? Yes.
Can I just add?
Director Lindeman.
It's the use of the property, not necessarily who owns the property. So if quite a few of these don't own the property, they lease it, and it's the nonprofit. So you have both the person who owns the property and the leasee that apply. But it is specific in the regulation. It's if the property is being used for charitable and benevolent purposes.
Thank you. Okay. Then at that point, I'll ask for a motion. Councillor Overwater?
Thank you, Mayor Daley. Yes, I move that the application submitted by Mountain View Lodge number 16 AF and AM be accepted for the 2026 taxation year.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councillor Taylor?
Thanks, Mayor Daly. And to Director Limited, thank you so much for that clarification. That recolors my thought on it entirely. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. All those in favor? That passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Last one.
So our last one is accredited supports to the community. I'm not going to read through all of these, but just in general, the hold, supply, operate, manage, and maintain housing accommodations for persons with disabilities. They support people with developmental disabilities to live in their homes and integrate into the community. Support survivors of an acquired brain injury to relearn skills and gain increased independence. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Any questions, concerns? None? Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd make the motion that the application submitted by Accredited Supports to the community be accepted for the 2026 taxation year.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor? That is passed unanimously. Thank you very much. That concludes 6.4. So now we'll move down to 6.5, appointment of auditor.
You get to hear from me again. And so today we're asking council to appoint our auditor, Metrics Group LLP, for the 2025 audit year. The budget for the 2025 audit has been approved within the 2026 operating budget. And then attached to this RFP was our 2025 audit planning report. So if that is accepted for information, will be signed and then sent back to our auditors for the fiscal 2025 year.
Thank you. Is there any questions, concerns? No? All right, then I will need a motion. We have to. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Daly. I move the council appoint Metrics Group LLP as the auditor for the town of Olds for 2025 fiscal year and...
Okay, so we'll vote on the first motion, and then we'll move on to the second part of it. Any further discussion? None? All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. And now for the second part, Councillor Cook.
I move that council accepts for information the 2025 audit planning report.
Thank you, Councillor Cook. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? That is passed unanimously. Thank you very much. It concludes our section 6 on business. Move down to 7, correspondence and information. And I'll turn it over to CAO Williams at this time.
Thank you, Mayor Daly. And as alluded to in the public hearing earlier today, I wanted to run through, which I'm confident will be brief even for me, where we stand with the correspondence on data centers. You can see in correspondence there's a number of data center related correspondence that did not go to the public hearing because it did not reference the actual rezoning bylaw, and they are much more focused on the concept development of a data center. To date, we have received closer to 45 email submissions is my estimate, and those not included today will be included in the next meeting's agenda. And also I should note that some of the topics here relate to the open house that council attended last week as well. So some of the key points I just want to touch on quickly that these letters and the open house alluded to at a high level, what is our response and current situation. This will also be included in the minutes of this meeting package. But we get comments about timelines and secrecy of this development quite often given the speed it's moving. And it's hard to fault people for being concerned with the timelines. But when people hear the word March start date for the Synapse development, it's important to note that we don't have necessarily control of what third parties say. We do have control over our development permit process, and we are not predicting a time on when it will start. Whether that's done through various other purposes, such as contract signing or promotion on the private developer side, we don't get involved in it. The question, again, relating to this, how long has the town known about this? I believe it's on our FAQ page, as with most of this stuff, but Synapse approached us in late 2025 through the realtor, I do believe. And an NDA was signed in December of 2025, myself, Mayor Daley, and a few other planning staff. So it is relatively recent for us based on how quick this is moving. The NDA was signed, which is not that uncommon for local governments, as we have a lot of information that would affect the private sector developers' competitiveness in their plans and in their market. So it's obviously people can disagree with that, but it is within our purview and it is quite common. And then data centers, of course, June 2025 is when they were added as a use in our light industrial district, and people do have take issue with the fact they weren't paying attention, therefore we should have done a better job in advertising that. That's something we'll always struggle with. And municipal government is painfully boring until it's not. But we advertised and held a public hearing accordingly in June 2025, along with then the subsequent several-month land use bylaw amendment, where data centers have been in place since then. Water usage, based on our current understanding of the Synapse development, a one-time fill for the cooling infrastructure will cost us about 1,000 cubic meters total, and that's at full scale, not per building. The natural gas plant operation on a monthly basis is roughly 1,200 cubic meters of water, and human consumption approximately 1,000 cubic meters per month, and that's based on 1,000 people on site. That's rough estimation, so our current consumption being around 80,000 cubic meters per month, that places it at below or right at a 3% consumption impact, which for us is not even what Sundial used to consume on a monthly basis at peak operations. At the Water Commission level, where we buy our water from, they have about a 9 million cubic meter license per year. Right now they are, I believe, just under half, around 4.5 million cubic meters that are currently allocated through the members. So at the commission level, it is a significant capacity that exists, and they want to sell more water as that's their business model. And then all industrial water use, even this amount, even though the province doesn't choose to get involved with the commissions until it's a large-scale use, but all industrial water use is still approved or regulated by the province of Alberta, usually through the Alberta Environment and Protected Areas. Electricity, again, the Synapse development and what we understand about the data district development, which to a degree, but natural gas generation is what the province is pushing and what developers have approached us with. There's no tie-in to the electrical grid, so the effect on prices or the supply of electricity is not expected to be affected at all by at least the Synapse development or the data district development, as there is either a complete cogeneration component or with natural gas, or it's grid that was already allocated already. Emissions, this is the bigger topic in my opinion that we need significant clarity and assessment on, given that massive cogeneration piece or co-location piece of natural gas generation for electricity production. We don't understand what the emissions impact will be, and that's because no one does at this time, but it's under the purview of the Alberta Utilities Commission that requires an assessment be done on each building and that generation need or expectation, and then the AUC overlaps with a lot of different departments and acts, but mainly Alberta Environment and Protected Areas, which introduces obviously different acts like the Environmental Protection Act, various clean air regulations under their purview and under the purview of the Alberta Energy Regulator as well. But that's in administration's view the largest hurdle this has to cross, and we don't have anything to do with emissions, but we will be following this closely, as we don't want to approve anything that's going to be ill-intended or ill-fated for citizens in the town. Noise, this is shared jurisdiction as mentioned. AUC Rule 7, they regulate the natural gas production and the volume of that production. We are suspecting this will be the largest noise component on this property, but to be seen. And there is a scale within Rule 12 based on urban areas, rural areas, daytime, nighttime. But for the sake of explanation, 40 to 60 decibels seems to be the range based on time of day for the natural gas generation piece. Our development process, we will have something similar. We can't overregulate on top of the AUC, and we would have to have a clear line of how we determine what sound is coming from the natural gas plant versus, let's say, cooling infrastructure on the building. But our main role is probably going to be in the realm of physical barriers and attenuation methods like berms or like sound fencing, and then should it be operational, we will test periodically, and certainly as complaints might come in. That's how we see the overlap looking right now, but more information is certainly needed. And as part of the development process, the developer has to submit a noise assessment as well, and that's one of the several outstanding things we're currently waiting on for that development permit before we reach public circulation and present it to council. Traffic is a big concern as well because there's construction should the project go ahead of estimated 2,000 construction workers over the life cycle of the project. Not they're all going to show up on day one and get to work. That there is a 2-year plus build out phase. Then the operational traffic. Alberta Transportation and Economic Corridors will be essentially the sole adjudicator of these traffic plans. Again, as part of the development permit, they have to obtain a roadside development permit through ATEC, and that has not been applied for yet. So another thing that's just outstanding in this process. A traffic impact assessment has been completed as part of the ASP, and that is under review. Myself and Mr. Sloan have a meeting tomorrow morning to go over this with Alberta Transportation. And the Highway 27 functional plan, which everyone's favorite topic. Council has been lobbying for several years on a few items. One of the items is the upgrade of intersection 2A and 27. And that will be a big point should the Synapse development go forward, that intersection will probably get at least closer to reaching its capacity, and we'll have to approach Alberta Transportation on plans for that as the development proceeds. But traffic is largely within Alberta Transportation's purview, given that this project is proposed to front onto 2 provincial highways. Questioned a lot about tax breaks and subsidies, and the town has offered neither data center project tax holidays, breaks, incentives, or subsidies, nor will they be offered them. And all land deals, another question we get is about land. Did the town sell the land? We never own the land. All land deals are private. People don't ask our permission before they buy land. Property values is a big thing, as you heard today, that people are worried about the values of their properties. There's no old specific information on how data centers relate to property values. We can have anecdotal information that when Sundial moved in and there was upwards of 800 workers here at its peak, it had a very robust smell, if you do recall, and people had the same arguments then, as I have read through those various public submissions. Since 2016, home prices in Olds have risen precipitously despite that industrial development. There is a 2025 study from George Mason University regarding data centers in the Virginia Tech Alley. That's the best specific data center to housing value study we have at our disposal. It shows the same experience that homes near data centers actually see an increase in market value. But even though we believe supply and demand, that unless we can build significantly more homes in Olds and this development comes in, we will see an increase in home value. But to the points many people rightly made, we have to be able to minimize those impacts, noise, lighting, aesthetics, to make sure that those properties aren't adversely impacted. And that's, we can't give a great answer, but that's what the processes are for, both municipal and provincial. Revenue, people ask a lot about revenue. This building will be assessed by the provincial assessor, not by the town's assessor, so we don't have a great idea of what it's going to bring us in tax revenue. The development permit will have an estimated value attached to it, and we can guess from there. But the province is not used to assessing data centers of this size either. Franchise fees, same thing. We're trying to work with the Department of Energy and the AUC to understand what does co-located natural gas facilities that are outside our franchise agreement with ATCO look like in terms of revenue. We haven't gotten to a conversation yet, but we're working on getting clarity there. And offsite levies, we estimate in the $5 million to $6 million range. This project at full scale will pay in offsite levies, which are those one-time fees charged for future offsite impacts, such as the need to upgrade water infrastructure, sanitary infrastructure, road infrastructure based on that development. So when people talk about community investment, it's a really important part of development that it stays away from quid pro quos, that you build us this and we'll give you a development permit. We can't go into that realm, but it's not out of line for councillors to explain to people like offsite levies are a real legislated fund that developers have to pay into based on a per hectare value. And the Synapse development based on full scale is going to be at least $5 million owed into our infrastructure funds. Community impacts, schools, healthcare, housing, emergency services. A lot of these are provincial, but it doesn't mean we can't support or certainly recognize schools. We have land designated for a future public school already. I believe we're still third on Chinook's EDGE list, and they're telling us, 5 years out is the probability. Catholic school, they're at a fairly low capacity in relation to, I think, even OES, which is not even at 100% yet. But if you look across the province, new schools aren't being built until schools are well over 100% capacity. Same thing with healthcare. Even though we see an expansion of the Olds Hospital underway, lobbying for a second expansion through the surgical plan forward, and we have a new medical clinic, but the province is not going to invest in communities that don't have a growing population. There's too many needs elsewhere for new hospitals and new medical facilities that if you're not growing, you're not going to get the improved services as well. But we're lobbying for them, certainly, even without data centers, but data centers will help us get there should the population boom take off. Housing, as I think Director Pedro reported last week, we have record housing starts, and we're making a good stride in 2026 already, early on, and seeing into the hundreds, triple digits continuing, we think, for certainly a third year in 2024 to 2026. And we still need to keep working. Emergency services, our fire department, I believe, is well equipped, well trained, and provides expertise and an incredible level of service. RCMP, as more population grows, as council has been briefed on already, we'll be considering a 5-year RCMP plan shortly to talk about how we invest proactively in the RCMP, as they're already operating from a deficit in many ways. And phases, the final piece, so our development permit, as mentioned, it's submitted, but it's not deemed complete. Sorry for the typo there. And we hope by Friday we'll have at least more information to share, but it may take a bit longer. Once that is deemed complete, we have public circulation, presentation to council, and then recommend another open house type of deal to get into the particulars with the public. Staggered development is proposed, though, that the 10 buildings proposed at Synapse, for instance, are not going to be built at once. The current development permit that is submitted is for 1 building, not for 10, so that is not going to have a immediate impact on the town in the same way the scary map shows. In our development permit, noise, light, and aesthetic assessments and conditions will be seen, or assessments of those things, then conditions on the development permit to manage those things appropriately. And then our development permit will also talk about provincial approvals need to be met before the project enters into operation. Question, Dan?
Yeah, thank you. So we mentioned today that the building permit is for the southwest quarter of that land, and it can be, of course, easily transferred up to the northwest quarter. Now, initially I heard that he was going to start on the north, even though the building permit now presently states southwest quarter. Could he move that to the northwest with a amendment to his building permit then?
From a development point of view, he could, and we haven't gotten too far in that conversation, given the rezoning just happened today. The issue more is servicing. That as the further as the further north you go, you have to bring new services that aren't there. From my perspective, and I am not a developer, it makes more sense though to start closest to your services and then build out from there. So I'm going to expect it's going to be the north part of the south quarter is where we'll start, as that's where we want the sanitary tie-ins to be, is coming off the street between UFA and the gymnastics studio in there, but to be confirmed. And those provincial approvals, as we've beaten those acronyms to death already, AUC, APIA, and AER, they're all involved. And the town, unfortunately, just doesn't have the ability to overlap or to second guess these provincial authorities. We have to certainly wait and participate in their processes and get the information and ensure the information is relevant and accurate and communicate it well. But we don't have a parallel assessment authority to run in conjunction with what the province does. It is very much a father-son relationship here, and we're not the father. Jet?
Thanks, Mayor, and through to the CEO. On the issue of, I guess, monitoring the emissions, do we have a role to play in monitoring that? Yes, we can't set the numbers, but what role do we play in making sure that the numbers are what they say they are?
I think post operation would be our potential role, that we would have the same role as anyone to file a complaint. I'm sure even to conduct our own verified process, if there's a way to do that, of, say, testing emissions of a facility. Certainly the noise is a much more straightforward factor to put into place, that if we thought the natural gas co-location was causing a plus 60 decibel reading, we could use a calibrated decibel reader and submit that to the AUC. The same avenue would be available to emissions, just probably technology beyond our control, but we would still have the ability, just like any other person would.
Thanks. Just supplement. I believe that, I guess my largest concern is, yeah, noise you can immediately hear if that's exceeding what it should be. The effects of exceeding emission standards is a little bit more insidious in that it would take some time before we noticed that it was higher than it should be unless we're continuously monitoring.
A very good point. And through the chair, that would be part of APIA's and the AUC's relevant orders or processes, that some type of periodic or initial testing has to be completed, either by the agency or submitted by the developer. I'm not sure what those parameters are, but certainly we do need to figure them out and be able to explain them in clear enough language. So current trajectory versus our outcomes, if I had to explain it that way. Right now, council has two options. The public hearing today obviously sets you on a bit of the second option, but trying to explain it to people who very much are confused or disagree or scared, that council can stop the process through the development permit, through the rezoning, for instance, due to insufficient information, that we don't know what the emissions or the noise or the environmental wetland impacts are going to be, and cease and desist. The second option, which I believe council has been choosing and has chosen today, is to let the process continue to gather more information to make a more informed decision. But that being said, even though we are proceeding after direction today, if impacts can't be mitigated around, let's say, just noise and emissions, that the development won't proceed, that we don't want this development here if it cannot be done in a environmentally responsible, health-conscious, emissions-focused way for the residents. And it's not that we're going at all costs. It's that the province has given this direction on data centers, that in June 2025, council gave administration direction to pursue this opportunity. We found two opportunities now. and it's worth pursuing. But if it can't be done responsibly, it's administration's opinion, and it ought not to be done at all. But we're not at that point where we can judge if it's going to be done responsibly. We need more information, and that's what we're doing at this present time.
Councillor Blatz?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Daley, and through you to CEO Williams. I think just for a little bit of a clarity, in June, when we gave you direction to pursue data centers as an option, not this particular development or any other that's come to town, and I think that's very important to note because we knew the direction the province was pushing and wanting to go forward, and rather than be late to the game, we wanted to have the proper process per se through the land use bylaw to be able to pursue any opportunity that could come to Olds. And I think that needs to be noted to anybody who might be listening still or, who will listen later. That's very important.
Good clarification. And even on the town's FAQ page, it does say the data district folks approached us in September of 2025, Synapse in late November 2025. The group, but we have spoken to probably 3 to 4 other groups outside of those two that didn't come to fruition, one of which facilitated the request to add data centers to the light industrial district in June of 2025. I believe we started talking to our first data center in late 2024, early 2025. But Councillor Blatz is correct. The Synapse development was late November into December of last year, and Data District just earlier in the fall. So, good clarification. And that's all I had. I've taken up more of your time in the past, so I'm pretty proud of myself right now.
Yes, that was very good, actually, and everybody seems to be still wide-eyed and bushy-tailed. That's what it is. It's presentation skills to its finest. All right. Any questions for CEO Williams and his presentation? Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Daley, and I'm sensitive to the time, and I don't like to get into speculation and tea leaf reading. But do you have any brief thoughts through your past experiences with AUK and so on? What's likely to draw their attention? Are they just going to do all-encompassing and look at everything, or is the power plant and its proximity to where the land is that likely to draw some heightened scrutiny, or they just take a blank check and look, or a blank canvas and look at everything? Thanks.
Good question. And through the chair, I'm not entirely sure, as I've only been doing my own research. I haven't spoken to the Alberta Utilities Commission. I do believe, given its proximity to residential areas and to town, that they will have to look at the emissions side of it much more closely, as the emission side doesn't only relate to other provincial departments, it's also tied into responsibilities under federal legislation as well. So I believe that will be the area given most scrutiny. The AUC deals with natural gas generation all the time, so I can't imagine anything else taking much of their concern, as it's pretty simple if the supply is available for them. But emissions being this proximate, to my opinion, will throw up the most assessment and flags for them.
Councillor Taylor?
Thanks, Mayor Daley, and through to CEO Williams. Yeah, I guess that just highlights another question that I have is about the offset between the March start and then another start after the AUC process is done for the power plant. I presume that the developer is assuming quite a bit of risk by starting a project that requires a natural gas power plant before the power plant permits are received. So I presume that there is some scenario where he gets so far on it and then the AUC says no. Is that, am I reading that correctly? Thanks.
Through the chair, I think you're reading it correctly, because I don't have a great answer either. Now, if the municipal development permit gets approved with conditions, and let's say that is the condition for the land purchase, people can do what they want on their land within reason. And if they have an approved development permit, he could start, let's say, the civil construction side. But if he doesn't get those provincial approvals, he would then have to remedy the work he was done already and then incur more costs. So it's, again, we're not sure on timelines right now. It's something as we progress, certainly just in the development permit phase, then we enter the building permit phase for the actual structures, we'll have much more clarity on. But there's a lot of provincial processes to get through. So the March deadline, again, that's the town has no control over that announcement, and we can't speak to its validity. So.
Go ahead, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Daley, and I will be very brief. Through your research with the regulatory review, idea on what the town's role and length, amount of involvement would be? I know residents will be given the opportunity to provide submissions. Are we subject to an interview process? Do we have to be called upon or to be determined? Thanks.
Through the chair, very good question. The AUC process, definitely municipalities have to be consulted. And we will make a submission once the formal process kicks off, and that's what the developer is currently doing right now. And council will be brought into that, obviously, and I believe emissions will be generally our largest area of questioning about how they plan on communicating and if it's approved going forward with periodic testing. And so we can then communicate that back to residents. But yes, we do have a role. The Alberta Environment approvals, I've been through them before on the civil construction side, where when you're, say, disturbing a wetland or undertaking a large water diversion project, there is it's pretty old school. It's like notice published in the local newspaper for 2 weeks about the application before APIA, and then you put submissions in. By then, we should have better understanding of what the water usage is. But really, given we're part of a commission, it'd be more of a concern, if there is a concern, a conversation between the commission and Alberta Environment. So I can't see us having major concerns with the APIA process until it ties into the emissions side, which I think will generally be taken care of through the AUC.
And just to go along with that then, like, so once the facility is up and running, does the provincial government have any responsibility for coming back and ensuring that those noise levels and emission levels and so forth in a way of testing the facility on an ongoing basis going forward? Is there any responsibility there for the provincial government, or does that all come back to us again as a municipality?
Yeah, it's totally in the province's realm for emissions testing. I think some criticism the province has been levied before for emissions and often things like tailings ponds. It's more self-reporting. The authority is given to the project manager or the proponent to report, but there is still, outside of the Environmental Protection Enhancement Act, several clean air regulations as well that do specify the projects must complete periodic testing. How that testing is done, though, I don't have a great understanding. If it's led by the project owner or manager, or done, let's say, through third-party provincial verification. So, but more information is needed on that for sure.
Good. Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much for all that information and putting it all together. I will need a motion. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. I move that the correspondence and information report ending February 9th, 2026 be received for information.
Thank you for that. Final comments? Seeing none. Oh, Councillor Taylor.
Sorry, more final comments. So just, I think it needs to be mentioned, like huge kudos to yourself and administration for putting together all these detailed responses to these very detailed questions. It's a lot, and I definitely appreciate I don't understand how anybody can't feel heard when they're getting such prompt reply directly from the mayor himself. So thanks.
I'll have to share that over to Brent Williams as well, CAO, for the immense amount of help that he's given in that aspect. So, thank you. Okay, got a motion on the floor. All those in favor? All right, that is passed unanimously. Thank you very much. That brings us down to item 8, adjournment. And I adjourn the meeting at 4:53 p.m. Nice short one today. It's good to get home early.